The story begins in a futuristic landscape in the year 2075 in the East District 55, formerly Tokyo. We meet Eito Kiryu, a man from the Mage army who works as a supplier and has a low score of 131, Rev. With a tired face, he reflects on his life, thinking that at 35 years old he is still just a simple supplier. A memory from 40 years ago shows a desolate world where a monstrous creature appears, announcing the end of times. The cause is unknown, but the planet was invaded by giant monsters that attacked the big cities without mercy. These creatures emerged from the depths of the earth and began to hunt humanity, spreading chaos everywhere. In response, humans used all their military strength, sending armed soldiers to face the new threat. The military tried to fight the monsters with everything they had, but their weapons seemed to have no effect. That is because the creatures had special abilities, such as energy barriers that made all modern weaponry useless. Just when humanity was about to lose all hope, a light appeared amidst the destruction. Heroes suddenly emerged, attacking the monsters with an unknown and overwhelming power. They were the mages, individuals who mastered ancient magic and were also masters in sword combat. It was not with science or weapons that the world was saved, but with the courage and power of these new warriors. The mages became the true saviors, joining their forces to protect the innocent from the creature attacks. To combat the constant threat, the training of new mages began to be established all over the world. Schools and academies were created to teach the arts of the sword and magic to the next generation of defenders. Thanks to these elite mages who were trained, the world finally managed to find a little peace again. As a result of this new era, society changed completely, and ordinary people looked up to the mages with admiration. What remained in this new world was a rigid hierarchy based on each person's power and magical abilities. A cruel academic elite was formed with the ideology that if you are not a mage, you are not considered human. Back to the present, we see the military base where our protagonist works, a place with modern and imposing architecture. While Eito Kiryu walks carrying boxes, two coworkers watch him with disdain, laughing and taking a break. One of them notices something in Eito's pocket, a set of glowing potions that seem to be valuable. Without hesitation, the two men approach, and one of them yells to get Eito's attention, calling him a supplier. With a harsh kick, the man knocks the box out of Eito's hands and demands that he hand over the potions he is carrying. While Eito falls to the ground coughing, the aggressor insults him, calling him a low-ranking failure. Eito stands up and tries to stop them, explaining that the supplies are for the day after tomorrow, but he is ignored. The words supplier and low rank echo in his mind while the image of a great mage academy is shown. In this academy, the student's rank is defined by three main areas, the first of them being sword skill. The second area of evaluation is the mastery and raw power of magic, which defines a mage's potential in combat. And finally, the third area is military strategy, the ability to lead and make smart decisions in battle. Each person's job and status in society are determined by the total score obtained in these three areas. This created a social pyramid where ordinary people are at the bottom, and at the top are the legendary rank S mages. In this world of extreme elitism, Eito Kiryu sits alone in a dark alley looking at a device in his hands. He sees himself as a complete failure who could not become a mage, being demoted to a simple supplier. The device shows his low stats with rank F in sword and magic, and a rank E power, totaling 131 points. Heartbroken, he laments not having more talent, because with more power, he believes he could have fought for the world. Suddenly, someone yells for everyone to look at the sky, and Eito raises his head, curious about the commotion. A strange black and red anomaly, looking like a dark flower, opens in the sky, leaving everyone scared. With his face full of astonishment and sweat, Eito Kiryu watches the phenomenon and tries to understand what in the world that is. Inside the anomaly, a winged, shadowy creature with a blade on its claw emerges with a glowing yellow eye. Suddenly, a gigantic, unknown monster lands right in front of Eito and the other two men. Right after, an entire army of these one-eyed creatures descends from the sky, led by an even larger, horned version. The commander of the mage army, Polizarl, a powerful rank SS, orders all her forces to attack the enemy. The mages advance bravely, flying towards the sky and casting their spells against the winged creatures. However, the main monster, who looks like an ultimate destroyer, fires a beam of purple energy from its mouth. The mage army, which seemed so imposing before, now runs in desperation to try to survive the devastating attack. Faced with such overwhelming power, the mages were completely ineffective and had no chance to fight back. Eito runs through the ruined streets, yelling that that monster is too strong and is on a totally different level. The narration explains that this unknown creature was able to take down the entire world in just 3 days. A scene from the past shows Eito next to a young woman in a military uniform, looking at the ruined city from the top of a building. With tired and worried expressions, the two observe the dust and desolation that spread across the horizon. The girl, with a voice trembling with fear, turns to Eito and asks if that really is the end of the world. Eito tries to calm her down, promising to protect her and calling her Luna, but on the inside he questions how a failure could do that. Luna, however, smiles confidently and says that everything will be fine as long as she is by his side. She even adds, saying that, to her, Eito is the kindest person in the entire world, leaving the young man speechless. Luna's words leave him embarrassed and moved, and he just lowers his head, not knowing how to react. Trying to lift his spirits, Luna says she will look for food and runs off through the wasteland. Alone, Eito thinks bitterly, questioning what good kindness is in a ruined world like that one. He falls to his knees on the cracked ground, feeling completely powerless and unable to change the situation. Suddenly, a terrifying scream startles him, and he raises his head quickly, worried about the noise. Eito turns in the direction of the scream and sees one of the wind creatures, immediately realizing that Luna is in danger. With his face full of panic, he does not think twice and runs towards the monster to try to help her. The creature grabs Luna by the shoulder with its claws and injures her, making the young woman cry out in pain. Desperate, Eito jumps towards the monster, yelling for it to stop and not to dare touch his sister. He remembers how his parents were defeated by creatures, and how he and Luna fought together to survive since then. In an act of desperation, he activates his pressure ability, throwing a small sphere of blue energy with his hand. He mentally begs for his attack to work, even knowing that his power is extremely weak. But the creature simply turns its head to the side, and the energy sphere goes right past, causing no damage. Eito's small attack dissipates in the air, proving to be completely ineffective against the monster. With his face full of frustration, Eito yells, confirming to himself that his ability is totally useless. As he falls to his knees, a man with a glowing green magic circle suddenly appears above him. The magic circle expands and traps the monster with energy beams, paralyzing its movements for a moment. The mysterious mage takes advantage of the opportunity and descends from the skies with his sword drawn, ready to attack. Eito looks up and recognizes the warrior, surprised by the unexpected arrival of such a powerful ally. The man introduces himself as Gurn Diamondit, a rank S commander, and tells Eito to grab his sister and get out of there. Without wasting time, Gurn advances and strikes the monster with his sword of light, opening a path for them to escape. Eito picks up Luna, who is badly hurt, and runs as fast as he can, impressed by the strength of the legendary mage. Holding his sister in his arms, he calls her by her name, begging her to wake up and not to give up. Luna, with her eyes almost closing and losing consciousness, weakly whispers Eito's name. In his arms, Eito holds Luna, who has suffered a very severe injury to her shoulder. With his face full of tears and despair, he watches his sister slowly fades away, unable to recover from the attack. In a cry of pure agony and heartbreak, Eito expresses all his pain for the loss of his only family. 3 days later, a large stone memorial stands in a green field with white lilies left in tribute. In front of the memorial, Eito Kiryu stands with his hands clasped in prayer, paying his final respects. With a low voice full of guilt, he whispers to himself that all of that was his fault. He laments, thinking that if he had become a powerful mage, he might have been able to protect Luna. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by panicked screams in the background, with someone yelling for everyone to run. A group of survivors runs past him, warning that the place has become dangerous and that he needs to escape. Eito looks back and sees the giant monster approaching the memorial grounds, forcing everyone to evacuate the area. The creature opens its mouth once again, preparing a purple energy attack to destroy everything in its path. Desperate, Eito turns to the memorial, lamenting that he cannot even ensure a peaceful resting place for his sister. A massive beam of energy is fired, sweeping the landscape and heading directly towards Eito. He takes a direct hit from the blast, grinding his teeth in pain as debris grazes his face. Fallen on the ground and panting, Eito realizes that, by a very narrow margin, he managed to survive the devastating attack. He coughs and tries to get up with his body covered in bruises and his clothes torn by the battle. Looking at his hand, he finds the last potion he had left, a small purple healing crystal. At that same moment, a figure descends from the skies at high speed, accompanied by multiple beams of energy. It is Commander Gurn, who is in the middle of an intense battle against several creatures, fighting all alone. Eito, even though he is hurt, yells to the commander, asking if he intends to keep fighting alone against so many enemies. Gurn answers with determination, shouting that he will not hand over the world and that he will protect it at all costs. Watching the scene, Eito is impressed by the strength and courage of the commander, who fights bravely. In the middle of the battle, large ice crystals appear in the sky and fall at high speed towards Gurn. Eito widens his eyes, realizing the imminent danger and the new threat the commander is about to face. In the blink of an eye, the crystals advance like missiles, and Eito yells for the commander to be careful. Gurn takes a direct hit from the crystals, which pierce his armor and make him cry out in pain from the impact. The giant one-eyed monster watches the scene, satisfied that its attack has reached the legendary mage. Badly injured, Gurn falls to his knees, using his sword for support so he does not collapse completely on the ground. He breathes with difficulty, showing that even a rank SS mage is reaching his limit. Eito runs up to him and offers his last potion, begging the commander to drink it to recover. But Gurn refuses the help, telling Eito to drink the potion, because he needs it more at that moment. With tears in his eyes, Eito insists, saying that Gurn's life is much more important for the survival of the world. Gurn corrects him, stating that all lives are equal, and that Eito is much stronger than he imagines. Eito opens up, saying that he wanted to be strong like Gurn, because then maybe he could have protected Luna. With a sad look, Gurn reveals that he is not strong either, because he was not able to protect Arya, his beloved. Hearing this, Eito finally understands the pain that the commander also carried in his heart. He realizes that Gurn, just like him, had also lost the person he loved most to that monster. The commander then extends his arm to Eito, saying that he will entrust him with an item of great importance. On Gurn's wrist, a silver bracelet with circular details shines brightly under the sunlight. With his last bit of strength, Gurn asks Eito to protect the world, because he knows the young man is capable of such a feat. Shocked by the commander's words, Eito questions how he could be the chosen one to save the world. He says it is impossible, but Gurn insists that it is not, stating that Eito is the only one who can fulfill this mission. The two stand still in the middle of the battlefield, with the earth cracked under their feet, and danger approaching. The giant winged monster raises its claw with a blade, preparing to deal a heavy blow to the two warriors. With his remaining strength, Gurn pushes Eito away, yelling for him to run while he holds off the creature. The creature descends from the skies like a meteor, heading straight for Eito, who watches the scene paralyzed. On the ground, he wonders what kind of magic is happening, and if that would be his final moment. But Gurn, even at the edge of his limits, raises his hand and activates one last and powerful magic called Reverse. A blinding white light takes over everything, and Eito thinks of Luna, accepting that he will finally be reunited with her. Suddenly, he opens his eyes and sees himself much younger, with a smooth face and an impeccable white uniform. Confused, he looks around and realizes he is in a classroom, not understanding where he is or how he got there. Beside him, other young people in the same uniform talk quietly, oblivious to his confusion. Eito Kiryu keeps looking straight ahead with an expression of shock, trying to process the bizarre situation. A holographic board in the center of the room shows the location and date, something that leaves him even more perplexed. He is at the Academy's entrance exam location in the year 2055, 20 years in the past. The young man gets desperate, questioning in his mind what in the world happened to him to be in that situation. 20 years ago, in the blink of an eye, Eito went back in time, having no idea how or why. He brings his hand to his head, trying to organize his thoughts, when he notices something different on his wrist. His eyes widen when he sees the bracelet that the commander gave him before stepping up to face the enemy. Eito realizes that that was the bracelet Gurn had entrusted to him in his final moments. He then remembers the reverse magic and understands that Gurn used all his power to do the impossible. The commander gave everything he had to bring him back to the past, giving him a new chance. A teacher at the front of the room announces that, from that moment on, the Academy's entrance exam will begin. The students get ready, while Eito is still standing, watching the scene as if he were in a dream. Not knowing what to do, he sits down, thinking that, for now, he just needs to get through that exam. He picks up the pen and begins to fill out the test, trying to focus even though his mind is a mess. While reading the questions, he notices something strange and stops for a moment, looking closely at the paper. He wonders if the questions are not too easy, because he can solve everything without any difficulty. With a confident smile, he wonders if the exam has always been so simple, solving one question after another. Next, in the fencing exam area, the students practice their moves against training dummies. With a quick and precise movement, Eito cuts the target with a strength and skill he never had before. Surprised by his own performance, he wonders if his sword skills improved suddenly. A light turns on in his mind, and he finally understands that he retained Gurn's abilities upon returning to the past. The commander's last words echo in his head, reminding him of the promise to protect the world. With determination in his eyes, Eito makes a promise to Gurn, swearing that he will reclaim a world free of creatures. To do this, he sets his first goal, to become the best mage in that academy and change the future. Leaving the exam location, he sees a young woman in a purple hoodie and a familiar hairstyle waiting for him. His heart races when he recognizes the girl, and with tears in his eyes, he walks slowly towards her. Unable to hold back, he runs and hugs her with all his might, calling the name of Luna, who is alive right in front of him. The girl, confused by his reaction, asks what is wrong, calling Eito her big brother. With his sister in his arms, Eito reinforces his promise, swearing to himself that he will never let Luna get hurt again. At the Academy's entrance ceremony, he thinks that he did the best he could, and now all that is left is to know his final score. He remembers the pain and despair of his past life, and swears that he never wants to go through that again. A gloomy memory shows a rank C student humiliating a rank F, showing the cruelty of the Academy's system. The Academy director, a white-haired man named Abitora, goes up on stage and calls the name of Eito Kiryu. Surprised, Eito stands up from his seat and answers the call, walking towards the stage. As he walks, other students whisper among themselves, wondering who he is because they have never heard of him. Director Abitora congratulates him and hands him a small box as a prize for his achievement. Eito takes the box, curious to know what is inside and why he is receiving that honor in front of everyone. Inside the box, a golden emblem with green jewels shines brightly, an award given only to the top student. With a drop of sweat running down his face, Eito is in shock when he realizes that he is the student with the highest grade. Looking at the imposing structure of the academy, he wonders if this means he is at the top of the hierarchy. Walking through the school corridors, Eito still cannot seem to believe what just happened. He thinks to himself that he still cannot believe he got first place in the entrance exam. In the cafeteria, he hears a student complaining about the food, calling it pathetic and awful while staring at his tray. Another student explains that there is nothing to be done, as that is the standard treatment for rank F students. Eito watches the scene from afar, seeing the clear difference in treatment based solely on the students' scores. A holographic panel shows the minutes available for each rank, and someone yells for a student to get out of the way. A young man forcefully pushes a rank F student, yelling for him to get out of the way and not to be a nuisance. The boy's tray falls to the ground, and one of his friends stands up to defend him, asking what the aggressor thinks he is doing. The aggressor, Azure Willer, a rank C noble, smiles arrogantly and asks if they have a problem with him. Realizing that Azure is a rank C, 3 levels above them, the two boys drop to their knees and apologize. Azure watches them with disdain because at the academy there is a caste system where challenging a higher rank is forbidden. Eito approaches the boy who is knocked down and offers help, asking if he is okay after the fall. Azure stares at him and tells him not to get cocky just for being the top student, thinking Eito is also a rank C. But looking at Eito's uniform, Azure's expression completely changes and his eyes widen in astonishment. The emblem on Eito's shoulder shows that he is a rank A, and the other students comment that this is impossible upon enrollment. Azure is left speechless, grinding his teeth in anger and envy for having been surpassed by an unknown. Ignoring the commotion, Eito bends down and begins to clean the food off the floor, saying it is a waste. The other students are shocked, wondering why a rank A is taking the trouble to clean the floor. Annoyed by Eito's attitude, Azure clicks his tongue, says the scene makes him sick, and walks away with his group. In his thoughts, Azure accuses Eito of playing the good guy and swears that one day he will make him bow before him. Shortly after, a waitress brings the special rank menu to Eito, a feast with pizza, meats, and salmon. Eito invites the students who were humiliated to eat with him, and they thank him immensely for his kindness. From afar, a silver-haired girl watches the scene, mentioning Eito Kiryu's name. She is Sarah Grace, a rank B noble, who finds Eito interesting because he is different from the other top students. Sarah approaches Eito's table and, to everyone's surprise, asks if she can have lunch together with him. Eito is shocked because the girl who is totally out of reach in his past life is speaking directly to him. She sits down and comments on how powerful he is, yet he does not brag about it, and that he seems to be a very kind person. He replies that it is not quite like that, thinking bitterly that kindness alone is not enough to protect anyone. With a determined look, Eito thinks that more than kindness, what he really needs to protect those he loves is strength. Sarah Grace smiles discreetly, thinking that Eito Kiryu, that mysterious boy, might be much more interesting than she imagined. Hiding nearby, 2 students watch the scene with envy, commenting that newbie is starting to get too cocky. The two are Tirano Blanca and Giulio Filorno, both rank C, and Giulio states with an evil smile that he is going to take Eito down. Suddenly, a voice says that his hand slipped, and a figure moves quickly towards the table where Eito is sitting. With a brutal strike, Tirano Blanca completely destroys the table with a giant axe, scattering food everywhere. The heavy blade of the axe buries itself in the floor, showing the strength and aggression of the sudden attack. Sarah stands up and scolds him for his terrible manners, reminding everyone that private duels are forbidden at the academy. Giulio, with a mocking smile, tells her not to be silly because they are at a magic academy to fight. Tirano adds, saying she should not worry, because he was just teaching Eito not to lower his guard on the battlefield. Eito, however, remains calm and thinks that, unfortunately for them, he knows the harshness of the battlefield better than anyone. With a cold look, he stares at the two and asks directly what they want from him, showing no fear. He continues to sit amidst the ruins of the table, waiting patiently for the instigator's response. Tirano smiles and gets straight to the point, challenging Eito, the top student, to a caste rebellion mission. The news shocks everyone in the cafeteria, who cannot believe that someone is challenging the first-place student right after enrollment. Sarah Grace, with a worried expression, questions if they are serious about the challenge. Giulio and Tirano maintain their confident postures, ready to face the newbie who stole all the attention. But to everyone's surprise, a slight smile forms on Eito's face, who seems to find the situation interesting. He thinks to himself that this is a good opportunity to test some of his new skills. The Underdog Challenge is an academy rule where a student can duel someone of a higher rank to steal 100 points. The rules are simple: whoever gets knocked out first loses, and the duel takes place on the school roof. Eito knows this challenge brings him no benefit, but he accepts as it is a good chance to test his current strength. Giulio smiles and says that fighting just to fight is boring, proposing that they make a bet to make things more interesting. Sarah intervenes, saying that obviously Eito will win. After all, he is a rank A and is on another level. With a sinister look, Giulio turns to Sarah and says that, if Eito loses, she will belong to him from that moment on. Eito stands up, saying they cannot agree to a crazy bet like that, trying to protect Sarah. But, to his surprise, Sarah accepts the agreement with a serious and determined expression on her face. Shocked by her decision, Eito questions her, not understanding why she would accept such an absurd condition. Sarah then adds her own condition, saying that if Eito wins, they must stop treating her like an object forever. Giulio laughs with disdain, calling her a stuck-up girl, but accepts the terms of the bet, certain of his victory. On the roof, Eito thinks about his disadvantage, since he has no experience in one-on-one combat unlike his opponents. Without wasting time, the duel begins and Giulio launches his first attack, an ice magic called Breeza. Several ice blades form in the air and advance against Eito, who wonders what he should do to defend himself. Before he could think, his body moves on its own, creating a protective magic circle around him. He is surprised, realizing that his body reacted on instinct, using the skills he inherited from Gurren. Sarah, watching from afar, smiles and comments that Eito's reaction speed is truly impressive. Eito then realizes that although he has no experience in duels, he has vast experience on real battlefields. Knowing this, he goes for the counterattack, casting a fire spell called Fire Ant. Giulio, however, mocks the attack, saying that for a top student, that was a completely predictable move. But as Giulio prepares to defend, Eito yells no and casts a second magic, the powerful Freeze Arc. With wide eyes, Giulio tries to understand what is happening, shocked by the second spell cast by Eito. The flames of the first magic open up and reveal dozens of ice blades heading straight for him. The combined attack hits him hard, causing him to be thrown backward by the impact and drop his sword. Eito explains mentally that this was Gurn's signature technique, a magical combination of fire and ice. Sarah, watching the fight, is shocked, because she was never taught about a combined move like that at the academy. Followed on the ground, Giulio stares at Eito, who approaches with his sword drawn, ready to finish the duel. Eito remembers Gurn's teachings, who always said not to waste movements during an attack. But while he focuses on Giulio, Tyranno appears from behind with his giant axe, yelling for Eito not to get cocky. At the last second, Eito notices the approach of the second opponent and turns his head, surprised by the attack. He narrowly manages to dodge the massive blow, which cracks the floor of the roof with its brute force. Indignant, Sarah yells that they are cowards, because the fight was not said to be against Giulio and his partner at the same time. Tyranno laughs and says no one said it would only be against Giulio, revealing that the challenge was from both of them. Eito grinds his teeth at anger, realizing he fell into a trap and now faces a 2-on-1 challenge. With an evil smile, Giulio reminds Eito that it was he himself who said the battlefield was unfair. Sarah yells for Eito to stop, saying that a challenge like that is invalid and that he does not need to continue. But the young man reassures her, saying with total confidence that it makes no difference whether it is one or two opponents. Ito's confidence leaves Sarah surprised, not understanding where so much determination in his eyes comes from. With his sword in hand, Eito thinks that he has a destiny to fulfill and cannot be defeated there. His true goal is to protect the country from the invasion that will happen in 20 years, a threat that only he knows about. Therefore, he cannot back down because of something as small as an unfair fight at the academy. He advances, yelling that there are no rules on a real battlefield. It is just a matter of surviving. Facing his two opponents, he completes his thought, saying that either you survive or you are defeated. Sarah realizes that Ito's gaze is not focused on the present, but rather on something much larger in the future. Giulio and Tyranno look at each other with malicious smiles, sure that their plan to fight together will work. Eito, however, trusts in his new sword skills and believes that victory will still be easy. He moves forward to attack, but upon blocking one of the strikes, he feels a strange pressure on his weapon. His opponents surround him, with Tyranno attacking from below and Giulio jumping for a simultaneous aerial attack. Eito braces for the impact, crossing his sword with Tyranno's axe and Giulio's sword. Sarah is shocked by the scene, not believing that Eito managed to stop a giant axe with just one hand. With a smile, Eito decides he will start by dealing with the opponent, who is in the air first. He focuses on Giulio, planning to defeat them one at a time to end the numerical disadvantage. With a quick exchange of strikes, Eito manages to defend himself from Giulio's attacks, showing his superiority in fencing. However, his sword finally gives in and breaks because his current power is too strong for a beginner's weapon. Seizing the chance, Tyranno shouts the name of his magic, Thunderval, and prepares for an electric attack. Giulio smiles and says the fight is theirs, activating a magic circle to amplify the power of his partner's strike. He uses a magic called Grease, which surrounds Tyranno's axe with a green aura and lightning. Sarah explains that this magic doubles the power of the original spell, and wonders how Eito will deal with it. Tyranno swings his electrified axe, launching a massive wave of energy towards Eito. Without his sword, Eito stands still in the middle of the attack, watching the lightning approach dangerously. He clenches his teeth and tries to create a barrier, but realizes that his shield magic will not be strong enough. Facing the imminent attack, Eito clenches his fists and decides it is all or nothing, ready to risk everything. He remembers one of Gurn's abilities that he inherited, a powerful rank of summoning magic. With a shout, he raises his arm and activates the magic, releasing an enormous amount of purple energy. A colossal reddish creature resembling a dragon emerges from the flames, roaring with overwhelming power. Giulio and Tyranno panic when they see the summon, screaming that it is a dragon, and they have no way to beat that. An intense purple light envelops the roof, and Eito watches the scene, not knowing what is happening with his magic. He looks at his own summon with a confused face, wondering what kind of creature that was. But when the dust settles, he sees a blue eye and tiny paws, very different from the dragon he imagined. Instead of a giant monster, what appears in front of him is a small red dragon that yawns lazily. Tyranno is left with a goofy face, understanding nothing, as he watches the harmless little creature. The two opponents start laughing, asking what pathetic creature that was in mocking Eito's ability. The little dragon, however, does not seem to like the insult at all, and stares at the two with an irritated look. He flies towards them and, with a surprisingly human voice, asks what they just said. Before they could answer, the dragon opens its mouth and fires a concentrated beam of purple energy. The attack is so fast and powerful that it pierces the roof, heading straight for the two bullies. Hit head-on, they cry out in pain and ask for help, completely defeated by the little being. Eito is left speechless by the creature's incredible ability, which simply yawns again as if nothing had happened. Sarah, however, recognizes the summon and says there is no doubt about what that is. She explains that it is Draga, one of the strongest and rarest summons of rank S that only legendary mages can use. Fallen on the ground, Giulio and Terreno are in shock when they discover the true identity of the small creature. Eito approaches the creature and asks if his name is really Draga, and the summon confirms with a simple highs. Draga then turns to the two fallen opponents and, with fire in his eyes, asks if he can finish them off now. In a panic, Giulio and Terreno crawl on the ground, begging Eito to help them and not let the dragon attack them. Calmly, Eito says not to attack, and that the caste rebellion mission ends right there. Draga questions the decision, reminding Eito that on the battlefield, having mercy on enemies is forbidden. But Eito smiles and says he has seen enough of Draga's strength and that he does not need any more proof. He adds, explaining that they are not enemies, but companions who will fight together against the true evil in the future. Defeated, the two bullies admit their loss, saying that Eito got lucky this time, but they still seem resentful. Giulio, in particular, grinds his teeth in anger and swears to himself that one day he will still crush Eito completely. Draga approaches Eito and surprises him, saying that, in fact, he is a very kind person. The young man corrects the creature, saying his name is Eito and asking not to call him kind. The little dragon agrees and says he understands, introducing himself formally and saying it is a pleasure to meet him. With a sincere smile, Eito replies that the pleasure is his, finally feeling more at ease with his new partner. Sarah watches the interaction between the two and thinks about the incredible potential Eito Kiryu has. She believes that that man could become the strongest mage the world has ever seen in its entire history. Later, on a full moon night, the city of Tokyo shines with its lights in a time of peace. At home, Luna hugs Draga tightly, saying he is the cutest thing in the world and asking his name. Eito explains that he is a summon, but for all intents and purposes, he is basically like a pet. Luna is extremely happy, saying she always wanted a dog and that now her dream has come true. Draga, however, gets an expression of total disdain, clearly hating being compared to a simple dog. Looking at his sister, Eito thinks about how she had to hold herself back for so long and promises he will not let her suffer again. He warns Luna, saying that Draga might seem silly, but he is actually very fierce, so she must be careful. Draga breaks free from Luna's arms, annoyed at being called silly, and glares at Eito angrily. With an awkward smile, Eito quickly apologizes, asking Draga not to get mad at the joke. Seeing the funny scene, Luna cannot hold back and starts laughing at the interaction between her brother and the little dragon. The narration explains that, from that moment on, Eito Kiryu's second life at the academy had truly begun. The first major event for the new students is the class selection, a decisive moment for all freshmen. The academy has 3 classes, each with its own characteristics, the first being the Tiger Ferric, which values boldness. The second option is the Bear Squadra, a class that focuses on adventure, ambition, and power above all else. And the third class is the Falcon Manshaft, which values intelligence, strategy, and cunning in combat. Furthermore, there are several competitions between the classes throughout the year, and the winning class receives special bonuses. In other words, choosing a class is an extremely important event for the future of any student. Director Abitora explains that this decision can determine the entire path they will take at the academy and in their lives. Beside Eito, Sarah Grace asks if he has already decided which of the 3 classes he intends to join. The boy replies no, and that he has not yet been able to make a decision on which path to take. Sarah comments that Tiger Ferric is out of the question, because she heard rumors that the teacher there is a brutal man. Eito confirms that the rumors are true, remembering that, in his first life, that class put him through a terrible ordeal. The teacher in question is Ivan, a man whom Eito describes as a true nightmare disguised as a master. In his memory, Eito remembers that Ivan's greatest pleasure was making the failing students suffer in his training. Back in the present, Professor Ivan himself approaches Eito, who stares at him with a serious expression. With a cold voice, the teacher asks if he is Eito Kiryu, the student who got the highest score on the exams. A little nervous about the sudden approach, Eito confirms that it is him, without looking away. Sarah, who watches this scene from afar, gets worried and wonders what a teacher like Ivan could want with Eito. The teacher gets straight to the point and asks if Eito applied for a scholarship at the academy. Eito confirms and explains that without the scholarship, things would be very difficult for him financially. Ivan then reveals his condition, saying that if Eito wants the scholarship, he will have to join the Tiger Ferric class. In his thoughts, Eito mutters about the teacher, trying to understand what his true goal is with that proposal. Ivan smiles subtly, thinking that Eito is a cocky brat and that he will break his spirit before he gets too strong. To everyone's surprise, Eito looks at the teacher and says he understands, accepting the condition without hesitation. Sarah is shocked by the response, not believing that he is really going to join the most feared class in the academy. But with a determined look, Eito thinks to himself that he will make that corrupt teacher bow before him. He then tells Ivan that he accepts, but that he also has a condition that needs to be met. Moments later, the teacher takes him to another place, saying they will begin a special exam. Eito is confused and asks what kind of exam that is, and what exactly he will have to do. With a sinister smile, Ivan explains that he will have to fight against a rank A magical beast in the underground arena. Alone in the arena, Eito can barely believe he will have to face a rank A creature so soon. From the stands, Ivan provokes him, saying that for an elite rank A student, that should be an easy battle. Eito still does not understand why Professor Oven seems to hold such a grudge and have such an issue with him. At that moment, Azure Willer approaches the teacher and asks to watch the fight for her educational purposes. Right after, Sarah Grace also appears and, with a worried expression, says she would also like to watch. With a fake smile, Ivan allows the two students to watch, praising their supposed dedication to their studies. Sarah clenches her fist, thinking it is ridiculous that the teacher is making Eito go through all that for a simple scholarship. In the arena, Eito's eyes focus on an iron gate that begins to open slowly. He feels the creature's presence approaching and prepares for combat, certain that his opponent has arrived. A giant claw with sharp nails comes out of the darkness, followed by a muscular body with exposed ribs. The creature completely steps out of the cell, revealing its form of a bipedal reptilian monster with dark fur on its arms. An information screen pops up identifying the rank of magical beast as a Gozvil. Eito frowns, thinking that the creature is just as scary as he remembered from his past life. In the stands, Sarah is shocked, wondering if Eito is really going to fight the terrible monster. Azure smiles with contempt, explaining that creature is used to train veteran third-year mages. Ivan, with a cruel smile, tells Eito that he can run away if he thinks he cannot win, but warns him that if he does not, he will be defeated. The creature lets out a threatening growl, staring at Eito from the other side of the arena, ready to attack. But Eito wields his sword firmly, saying he will not run away, because he needs the scholarship so he does not have to drop out of the academy. The teacher watches him with a cold stare, thinking he will not let a newbie like him defeat him. With a confident smile, Eito states that winning is the only option he has right now. He analyzes the creature and concludes that, because it is raised for training, it will not have the ferocity of a wild beast. The Gozvil stares at him, but seems more confused than aggressive, as if it were just following orders. Suddenly, the creature fires a blast of blue energy from its mouth, a direct and predictable attack. Eito dodges easily, confirming that the monster's attacks are simple, and that he can win the fight. However, after the attack, the Gozvil jumps and lands hard on the ground, releasing a shockwave. A blue aura begins to emanate from the monster's body, indicating that something is about to change. The creature gets trapped in an energy field, its body twisting as its strength increases. To protect himself, Eito casts a defense magic, Shieldon, creating a hexagonal ice barrier in front of him. The energy wave from the creature's transformation hits the shield, which begins to crack under the pressure. The Gozvil lets out a deafening roar, with a wild energy and an aggressive hostility it did not have before. Eito's shield breaks and he is thrown backward, surprised by the monster's sudden increase in power. He can barely stand, wondering where that intense, hostile intent came from. Ivan watches the scene with satisfaction, revealing that he left the creature without food for 3 days to awaken its wild instinct. Eito realizes that the monster is recovering its natural ferocity and prepares for a much more difficult battle. Azure smiles wickedly and encourages the creature, yelling for the Gozvil to devour him right there. Sarah yells to Eito, worried, saying that at that pace he has no chance of surviving the combat. Eito, however, closes his eyes for a moment and takes a deep breath, staying calm despite the situation. He thinks that level of ferocity is impossible for a training creature, but he knows something. With a confident smile, he opens his eyes, remembering a crucial detail that could turn the tide, the monster's weakness. Pulling from the memories of his past life, he remembers valuable information about those creatures. Artificial magical beasts created for training are not completely wild like the others. They have their combat controlled by an artificial intelligence chip implanted in the back of their heads. With this knowledge, Eito concludes that if he manages to destroy the chip, the creature should stop moving. Ivan realizes Eito's strategy, wondering how he could know about the existence of the control chip. Without wasting time, Eito jumps over the creature, aiming with his sword directly at the back of the Gozvil's neck. The sword blade comes down with full force, but the Gozvil manages to block the attack with the armor on its neck. The monster turns around quickly, and Eito is annoyed for not having managed to hit the weak point on the first try. He smirks, realizing that, although the creature blocked the strike, the battle is not over yet. In his thoughts, Eito analyzes that every magical beast has its strengths and weaknesses. He knows the Gozvil's power is immense, but its speed is its weak point, and with Gurn's skills, he should be faster. However, the creature moves in the blink of an eye and lands a powerful blow with its arm. Surprised by the monster's unexpected speed, Eito barely has time to react to the surprise attack. He tries to block with his sword, but the force of the impact is so great that he cannot defend himself. The blow hits him hard, causing him to feel a sharp pain and lose his breath for a moment. The Gozvil's force throws him far away, making him fly through the air towards the arena wall. He crashes hard against the stone wall, falling to the ground with his body aching from the brutal impact. With his left eye closed in pain, he realizes that something is very wrong with that creature. That was not the Gozvil he knew, because its power and speed were completely different from what he remembered. In the stands, Azure smiles at Professor Ivan, saying that rewriting the creature's programming was the right decision. With his eyes glowing red, Ivan confirms that, just as Azure suggested, he removed the beast's power limiter. Now, the creature in the arena was no longer a training animal, but a true fighting machine. Sarah hears the conversation and confronts them, accusing them of setting a trap for Eito. Azure plays dumb and says that was a serious accusation as they only gave a poor student a chance. With her face full of anger, Sarah glares at him and calls him a coward, realizing the cruelty of their plan. She turns her attention back to the arena, silently cheering for Eito to win that unfair fight. In the arena, the Gosville raises its hands and creates a magic circle, preparing a large-scale attack. A huge cluster of ice crystals forms in the air and plummets toward Eito. He reacts quickly, casting his shield and magic again to create a protective barrier. But the power of the attack is so overwhelming that the ice shield begins to shatter upon impact. With his shoulder injured, Eito laments, realizing that creature was not just a simple rank A. He understands that the monster has been modified and evolved, becoming a rank S level threat. With his shoulder injured, he laments, realizing that creature was not just a simple rank A. He understands that the monster has been modified and evolved, becoming a rank S level threat. Even so, he stands up and faces the creature, holding what is left of his sword with determination. He knows he cannot lose, because without the scholarship, he will not be able to continue at the academy. Thinking of Gurn's legacy, he raises his arm and decides to use his most powerful ability, the summon. Azure, who is watching everything with a smile, is surprised to see that Eito still has the strength to activate an ability. An intense light illuminates the arena, and a huge creature of fire appears behind Eito, roaring at the Gosville. Ivan and Azure are left slack-jawed at the scene, wondering what kind of creature Eito had summoned. But soon the grand illusion fades, revealing the little Draga, the rare beast that everyone already knew. With a smile and a clenched fist, Sarah celebrates the arrival of the savior, placing her trust in Draga. Eito yells to his partner, asking him to lend his strength to win that battle. Draga replies that he can leave it to him and transforms into a beam of light that flies towards Eito's broken sword. The little dragon merges with the weapon, which now glows with an intense fire power, hitting the Gosville head-on. Seizing the chance, Eito advances quickly, thinking he will destroy the control chip while the creature is stunned. Flames cover the monster's body as they quickly burn away the mysterious bands wrapped around it. The creature lets out a terrifying roar. At the same time, an intense dark energy begins to emanate from its body. Watching from above, Sarah gets scared and tries to understand what is going wrong with the beast. Suddenly, the monster's back breaks open violently to release a very suspicious purple aura. Eito watches the beast's armor changing and notes he never saw a transformation like that even in his past life. Meanwhile, Professor Ivan smiles, satisfied to confirm that the terrible Gosville evolved into a second form. The young man mutters in frustration, seeing that the creature grew 3 serpent heads and keeps getting stronger. Without wasting time, the monstrous heads rush toward the protagonist in a fast and very dangerous attack. To defend himself, the boy backs away and relies on Little Draga's power to summon a strong hexagonal shield. The beast's brutal strike hits the blue barrier head on and creates a huge explosion of light from the impact. Even protected, the blast is so strong that Eito ends up being dragged backward while gripping his sword tightly. Seeing that the attack almost destroyed Draga's magic shield, Sarah is impressed by such destructive power. Worried about the situation, the little dragon warns that they might not be able to win and suggests they flee from there. But the young warrior rejects the idea right away and shows great determination in his eyes of someone who will not back down. From high above, the spectators watch the beast's pressure against the shield, with some of them already counting on a victory. With an evil smile on his face, the red-haired student celebrates that his rival will finally disappear from the academy. Azure reveals all his dark envy and promises himself that he would never let Eito steal his spotlight. Desperate, Sarah shouts to warn her friend that it was a trap set by Azure through pure bribery. Hearing the girl's worried warning, the protagonist is surprised and finally begins to understand the full danger. The young woman continues explaining that they modified the magical beast's program and cries, saying it is impossible for him to win. Putting the pieces of that puzzle together, Eito understands the reason why the creature kept leveling up non-stop. Far from giving up, he raises his head with confidence and decides that the only remaining option is to achieve victory. Seeing the boy's stubbornness, Sarah cries even more and questions if he really wants to throw his life away in the middle of that arena. On the other side, the treacherous Azure pushes up his glasses and calls his rival a fool because of all that insistence. Under the villain's cruel orders, the gigantic Gosville advances once again and tries to crush the bluish magic barrier. The little dragon asks what the plan is, already deducing that the modifications removed absolutely all of the beast's weaknesses. Instead of despairing, the young man breaks into a wide smile and excitedly declares that he had just found the weak point. Not understanding the logic, the little red creature gets confused while receiving the order to spread flames all over the arena. Even doubting that this would have any practical effect, the magical partner obeys and begins to breathe the fire non-stop. In a few seconds, several intense pillars of flame sprout from the ground and create a literal wall of scorching fire. Completely ignoring the extreme heat, the monstrous beast tears through the path of flames with a furious and relentless advance. The terrible Professor Ivan smiles with disdain and claims that such a simple attack would never defeat his modified creation. Preparing a devastating blow, the huge monster concentrates a dangerous electrical and purplish energy in its enormous claws. In the air, the brave little dragon intensifies its flames against the beast, which soon responds by firing a bright energy beam. Worried about the combat, Sarah comments that he would not win a magic clash and tries to deduce her friend's risky plan. Focused on the battle, The protagonist reasons that the teacher's programming flaws would be the exact defects of the monster. He remembers that cruel man was obsessed with magic and always avoided difficult close-range melee fights. With an excited gleam in her eyes, Sarah understands the strategy and realizes that the flames only served as a useful distraction. Jumping in for the attack, the young man shouts that a teacher with no war experience would never defeat a survivor like him. In a precise movement, Eito comes down hard and buries his sword directly into the monster's head to end the confrontation. The sharp sword accurately pierces the large glowing stone on the monster's head in a swift and decisive attack. Seeing his dirty trick fail, Professor Ivan sweats nervously and realizes that things got out of control. Without the command chip to hold it back, the creature lets out a roar of pain while electric sparks explode. The young warrior smiles in relief and confirms to his team that the risky plan worked perfectly. Flying excitedly, the little dragon praises his partner's beautiful move and shows great pride. From the safety of the stands, Sweet Sarah breaks into a amazed smile at her friend's skill in that fight. Being humble as always, the protagonist does not accept the credit and says the victory is entirely thanks to the dragon. In the shadows of the private box, the bespectacled villain and the corrupt teacher complain, unable to believe such a defeat. But the frustration soon turns to pure fear when Azure notices the monster thrashing around in a very uncontrolled manner. Desperate to save himself, the cowardly student points far away and tries to make the beast attack anyone else. Totally crazed, the gigantic Gozville charges an immense amount of purple energy for a devastating strike. Seeing the lethal beam being aimed in their direction, the treacherous boy lets out a high-pitched scream of panic. In a hilarious scene, the magic impact destroys the entire box seat and sends the cheating duo flying through the air. Watching his enemies flying, Eito stays calm and notes that the beast must have entered a chaotic state. With a serene look, the silver-haired girl murmurs that punishment was well-deserved for the villains. Feeling no pity for the defeated duo, the dark-haired hero just smiles and agrees with his friend. After the massive commotion in the arena, a peaceful new day dawns, bathing the dormitories in sunlight. Sitting at the table in the morning, the young man devours a bowl of rice while his dragon attacks a huge banana. Full of morning energy, his beloved blue-haired sister announces that true school life begins today. Chewing unconcerned, the boy remembers that he will have an inter-class event and promises to do his best. He patiently explains to the girl that victories in this dispute yield a great advantage in final grades. Excited about her older brother's challenge, the little one cheers hard for him to get into a very strong class. Outside, large colorful flags wave in the courtyard as students prepare for the selection. The first major option is represented by the blue flag, value ambitious attitudes and immense power. Right next to it, a vibrant yellow flag calls all those who value intelligence and cunning more. But the boy ends up stopping in front of the red banner focused on boldness, imagining his new classmates. In the middle of his silent thoughts, his eyes widen a little when he hears someone calling his name. Running through the garden, Sarah raises her arms celebrating that they will be part of the same class from now on. With deeply flushed cheeks and a radiant smile on her face, the student approaches full of enthusiasm. Very happy with the pleasant surprise, the new student thanks and shows relief for not starting the year alone. Trying to play it cool, the girl lowers her head in embarrassment and says she did not do it on purpose to follow him. Not caring about the reason, Eito smiles very sincerely and guarantees that together they will form an invincible team. But an arrogant big guy from the blue flag intrudes on the conversation and warns that his class is the strongest. Startled by the terrible attitude of those muscular veterans, the young classmate whispers that they seem rude. The protagonist ignores the heavy mood and calmly judges that group just looks like a bunch of troublemakers. The friendly moment comes to an end when the gloomy teacher appears in the courtyard promising to push them hard in training. Suspicious of that corrupt teacher's bad intentions, he narrows his eyes and agrees with extreme coldness. With a suspicious aura in the air, the man hands over a small folder telling the student to take a look and get excited. The cover displays a discreet white label advising that document is the official list of students in the class. Upon opening the small notebook, the two friends begin to break into a cold sweat and are in shock at what they find written. The class list reveals that almost all the students are rank F and make up the lowest tier of talent at the school academy. The young man analyzes the names with a drop of sweat on his face and tries to understand the reason why that division is so unbalanced. Under the red flag, the new classmates stare at the ground with depressed looks for needing to act together as failures. Celebrating silently, the corrupt teacher lets out a gloomy laugh and wishes fate good luck to the inferior group. The girl notices that all the elite students are gathering in the yellow class with an absolutely different power level. Shocked by the injustice of the situation, the dark-haired warrior realizes that things are getting much more complicated. Underneath the yellow flag, the treacherous Azure smiles, confidently guaranteeing that a bunch of failures could never win. Realizing the setup, the protagonist confronts the bespectacled rival, wanting to know exactly what he did behind the scenes. The villain brags underneath his banner and replies maliciously that he only used the basic principles of capitalism. With an arrogant gesture, the red-haired boy explains very snobbishly that power will always concentrate where the money is. Sarah opens her mouth, completely indignant, figuring out that the rich kid actually bought the best students for his team. Showing all his phoniness, Azure offers an exclusive spot for the silver-haired young woman in case she was jealous. But the sweet student turns her face away right then, rejecting the invitation for not wanting to be on the side of cheating cowards. At that exact moment, a firm voice echoes across the open courtyard, getting the attention of all the students present in the garden. Director Abutor approaches the microphone on the stone stage to announce the start of the first major school event. Next to him, the gloomy Professor Ivan pulls a red cloth to reveal a glowing digital map containing a green area. The students observe the huge panel and discover that the first dispute will be a brutal magical orienteering exercise. The old director details the rules, warning that the youths will use only a map and compass to cross all the checkpoints. The prize for the fastest team will be 100 points per student, leaving the mood among the freshmen even more competitive. Several fighters cheer with their eyes shining as they realize that that amount of points would be enough to rank up. The school council announces that the event will not involve the entire class and that only 5 selected members will compete. Trusting in his speed, boosting magic, the young cheater gives a half smile, already counting on a very easy win. The muscular veterans of the blue team also let out cocky laughs, thinking that the race would just be a walk in the park. Even with everyone relaxed, Eito keeps a serious face and deduces that competition will not just be a simple treasure hunt. The boy accurately deduces that the dangerous route will take place right in the middle of a wild zone infested by large beasts. Wielding his imaginary sword to attack, the newbie understands that the test will be a true extreme survival ordeal. Looking at his new teammates' discouragement, the warrior remembers that in his past life he too was a complete failure. Clenching his fist with determination, he refuses to give up and swears to prove that even a despised team can come out victorious. Sarah gets the hero's attention and asks very calmly how he plans to guide such a weak team to the top of the podium. The captain turns to the class and asks if any of them possess hidden skills regarding mountains, stars, or crafting useful items. Very timidly, 2 boys and 1 girl raise their hands, trembling a bit nervously with all that responsibility. Without judging those students' low ranks, the boy smiles very kindly and invites them to form a strong squad. The gray-haired student looks away disheartened, stating that they would only serve as dead weight the entire way. Showing a captain's instinct, Eito keeps a positive posture and guarantees in no uncertain terms that the group can win the race. The trio widens their eyes, amazed, unable to comprehend where all that confidence was born from in the middle of such a bad situation. With a sweet and admiring look, the silver-haired friend watches the natural-born leader trying to decipher the mystery of his strategy. Holding a simple revolver, the director fires a shot into the air and announces the official start of the Great Survival Tournament. At the front of the yellow group, the preppy boy casts his glowing spell to quickly boost his teammates' running speed. The yellow team charges across the field like lightning, receiving loud cheers from the other students who stayed in the main area. Focused on the mission and taking the lead of the red group, Eito faces the forest, asking his new friends to start running. The team made up of demoted newbies confesses that it is impossible to win the tournament, possessing such a low magic level. Noticing the lack of confidence, the protagonist asks them to believe in him, guaranteeing that everyone will fight together as a team. Hearing the new captain's motivating words, the short-haired girl and the green-eyed boy gulp. The brown-haired boy named Libra agrees with the idea and declares on behalf of the group that everyone believes in the hero. Keeping a very serious expression on his face, Eito promises himself that he will do everything to win with that weak team. With an encouraging shout, the young captain orders the departure, and all the members of the red group begin to run through the forest. Meanwhile, the big guys on the blue team run at full speed, demanding haste to be able to maintain the lead in the race. The big guy tries to clear a path by pushing the bespectacled preppy boys team, while demanding that they get out of his way. But the villain uses magic to run faster and leaves the big guys behind, totally shocked by that speed. The yellow team flies through the forest and soon passes all the members of the blue team without showing any difficulty. Azure flashes a mocking smile, stating that he focused all his attributes on running, and that is why he would never lose in speed. The troublemakers clench their teeth in anger as they realize that none of them on the blue team possess agility magic spells. In another part of the forest, the protagonist suddenly raises his hand, ordering all his companions to stop running. The gray-haired boy is confused by the interruption and reminds him that they need to hurry to reach the goal. Holding the route map, Eito questions Libra to confirm if he really knew all the mountains in that region well. The leader points to the paper and asks if it would be a good idea to follow the river's flow to reach the first checkpoint. The brown-haired boy analyzes the route and confirms the possibility, warning that that path would be a long detour. The silver-haired young woman suggests casting her speed magic on everyone, thinking the team does not have time for delays. But the boy rejects the suggestion right away, explaining that focusing only on agility would not be enough to win. Nearby, the yellow team keeps running with Azure celebrating the absolute lead and guaranteeing a very easy victory. However, the spoiled students break sharply, letting out screams of dread as they run into something scary in the middle of the trees. A massive 2-headed werewolf blocks the path, and the students panic, claiming they did not know about the monsters. Trembling with fear, the boy with glasses draws his sword, regretting not having chosen strong warriors for his team. Suddenly, a giant axe cuts through the air and hits the monster's neck head on, drawing out a high-pitched howl of intense pain. The red-haired coward is paralyzed with surprise, trying to understand what had just happened before his eyes. The big guy from the blue team steps on the defeated werewolf and brags that a creature of that level was no big deal to him. Azur remains perplexed, realizing that the brute knocked down the fearsome two-headed beast using only a single strike. The big guy glares at the elite students, calling them all useless cowards and ordering them to turn around immediately. Sweating cold with the humiliation, the preppy boy mutters under his breath, regretting having invested his points only in agility. Trying to save his pride, the boy with glasses pretends he's going to defeat the creature and warns the red-haired boy to back off. The delinquent named Giulio gives a malicious smile at the preppy boy's arrogance and decides to test the rival's courage. Using a greenish magic, the troublemaker lures another werewolf toward Azure, who immediately despairs and begins to scream. The beast charges furiously at the yellow team, creating a terrible situation of panic and total despair among the rich students. Proving all his cowardice, the bespectacled leader abandons his classmates in the forest and warns that he will wait for them at the finish line. Giulio and the big guy laugh at the preppy boy's pathetic escape, wishing ironically that the remaining members managed to make it out alive. Returning to the red team, Eito's companions are already walking exhausted, with the pink-haired girl and the boy panting. Trying to cheer up the group, the experienced Libra warns that there is a tree with delicious fruits a little further ahead on the trail. Hearing the good news, the two tired students smile and recover a little of their spirits to continue the walk on the mountain. Watching the scene calmly, the protagonist comments to Sarah that choosing an experienced mountain guide was a great decision. The girl agrees shyly, but remains worried, thinking that the other teams must already be arriving at the second point. With a very confident look, the young man dismisses Sarah's worry and deduces that right at that moment something was happening. Far from there, the delinquent Giulio widens his eyes in frustration and rants angrily as he comes across a huge obstacle. The wooden bridge over the gorge was totally destroyed by monsters, and that was not on the route map. Holding the paper tightly, one of the blue team's troublemakers warns that the only remaining option is to take a detour by the river. Without wasting time, the red-haired leader turns around and orders all his classmates to run in that direction. Watching everything on the screens at the base, old director Abir widens his eyes, amazed at the plot twist on the course. The magical monitors clearly show that all the teams in the competition are being forced to follow the river route. Faced with this unpredictable coincidence, the experienced man realizes that the newbie team has taken the lead in the race. Meanwhile, the red group's members rest peacefully near the waters and enjoy the advantage they have gained. The director strokes his beard thoughtfully and deduces that young Eito foresaw that scenario, proving to have a very special talent. After the short break, the dark-haired leader announces that the checkpoint is right ahead and encourages his friends. They walk a little further and soon find a small stone shrine with the statue of an owl guarding the path. Very excited, the sweet silver-haired girl runs along with her captain to celebrate arriving at the first objective. The boy notes that there are still 3 small red spheres glowing at the base of the statue and quickly understands the meaning. The other 3 team members open their mouths in complete shock when they realize they were the first to reach the mark. Holding the red sphere with a calm smile, the protagonist confirms that they really are in first place. With the others celebrating in the background, Sarah steps closer, curious, and asks how the friend knew that was the correct route. Giving an awkward little laugh while scratching his cheek, the warrior plays it off and replies that it was all just a guess. Looking at the leader with great admiration, the student thinks to herself that they really have a chance to win the tournament. But the joyful moment doesn't last long when the captain notices strange blue eyes glowing in the middle of the dark bushes. Perceiving the great threat hidden in the forest, the hero gets startled and curses loudly as he backs away out of pure instinct. The other teammates let out terrified screams when they see the immense creature that emerges tearing through the heavy vegetation. A monstrous bluish dragon with glowing antennas and sharp claws blocks the path, revealing all its magical power. Desperate about the beast level, Sarah suggests an immediate escape, thinking that that weak group could never win. However, the dark-haired boy disagrees right away and states that they need to defeat the monster to advance in the test. The bluish beast lets out a threatening growl and shows that it is a true magical beast ready to crush any intruder. Keeping up the despair, the sweet girl insists that they all run away from there as fast as possible to avoid a total massacre. With an even more focused face, the hero repeats his unshakable decision and refuses to take a single step backward. The lower-ranked trio trembles from head to toe and whines, complaining that nobody warned about such dangerous beasts. Taking the front line, the brave warrior draws his sharp sword and orders everyone to ready their weapons for the fight. Thinking that is utter madness, the 3 newbies panic and recall that they are just lower-rank failures. Wielding her blade next to her friend, Sarah keeps sweating cold and reaffirms that that battle is a very dangerous mistake. Trying to awaken his allies' courage, the protagonist asks if they would also run away in case their families were targets. The weight of those words hits the trio hard, and they all stand in complete silence as they reflect on that great duty. Giving no time for rest, the immense blue beast lunges forward, delivering a brutal blow that Eito tries to block with much effort. The boy remembers his past life when he did not have the strength to save his sister from a monster and promised to become stronger. Moved by that painful memory, the captain shouts with fury, guaranteeing that he would never again run away from an important battle. Worried about her friend's boldness, the girl asks him to stop being stubborn before everyone there ends up losing their lives. Inspired by the fiery speech, the pink-haired student grips the handle of her sword and takes a deep breath, building up courage. Overcoming their fear, the trio gets into a combat stance side by side and shouts that they also wish to achieve true strength. Smiling confidently at his friends, the young leader celebrates everyone's courage and invites them to get strong together. Observing the scene, the girl notices that the group's motivation grew a lot and knows that all of this is thanks to her friend Eito. The brown-haired boy holds his sword firmly and promises to help in the battle while he awaits the captain's plan. The protagonist recalls his past military life when he saw a strong captain defeat that monster by focusing on its antennas. Having a strategy ready, the warrior announces he will draw the creature's attention so the rest of the team can attack the antenna. He charges with everything toward the massive bluish beast's muscular arm and swears that they will all cross the finish line. To get a good distraction, the boy raises his glowing hand, activating his magic ability to summon the little dragon. Watching this summon up close, the newbie members of the team are amazed and assume that is a high-level magic. Appearing amidst an intense glow, the little red creature lets out a big yawn and asks the reason he was called. The leader warns that nap time is over and right away points to the gigantic monster as the target that needed to be eliminated. Without hesitating a single second, the brave partner flies through the air and fires a powerful blast of scorching flames at the beast. Using the fire as a visual shield, Eito praises his magical pet and jumps very high to deliver his own strike. The swift sword movement hits the monster's arm head on, generating a strong impact that makes the creature let out a roar. Realizing that the perfect opening was created, the silver-haired girl shouts the green light, and they all advance together in the fight. Very furious with the injury, the giant creature bares its sharp teeth and focuses its angry attention solely on the main hero. However, the beast notices the other students approaching out of the corner of its eye and immediately tries to attack the weaker group of the team. Desperate with the change of target, the captain shouts, asking them not to give up on that intense combat zone. With a drop of sweat running down its face, the little dragon comments that the boy is exaggerating because of the beast's eyes. The magical creature steps back and reveals it is just an illusionary beast created for school training that would never end their lives for real. Even knowing the truth, Eito responds firmly that defeating a monster using their own strength serves to build confidence. The boy's mind travels to the dark future, and he remembers that they all need to be very strong together to save that world. Returning to the present, the leader makes an emotional plea, asking the three to continue fighting side by side with plenty of grit. Inspired by the sincere words, the gray-haired boy clenches his teeth and agrees, stating his desire to improve. Right after, the pink-haired girl and the agile Libra also promise to abandon the lowest rank to evolve in magic. Admiring that enormous willpower, the warrior flashes a sweet smile and comments that everyone there has great potential. To proceed with the plan, Eito charges at the monster, asking for magic help from Sara, who immediately shoots a strong blue lightning bolt. The illusionary creature suffers the impact of the magic and lets out a weak roar, providing the ideal chance for the team to make a collective attack. Occupying the sides of the field, the three newbie students advance with surprising sync, wielding their beautiful blades. Showing agility, the brown-haired youth lands the first side strike, trying to slice the beast's thick skin. Soon after, the gray-haired boy spins his body and also delivers a swift attack, swearing he would never be a loser again. Finishing the double teamwork, Sarah calls her friend Amy and both cross swords, striking the mysterious antennas. With the main targets totally destroyed, the massive blue illusion loses its strength, falling to the forest floor lifeless. Having finished the difficult trial, the gray-haired student tries to catch his breath while breathing heavily. Still trying to process the speed of the events, he stares at his shaking hands and questions if they really won. Stepping on the defeated monster, Eito praises their great performance and reinforces that they only won because they acted as a true team. With their faces lit up with joy, the three give thanks for the precious leadership and admit they would not have succeeded without the protagonist. Hearing his classmates' praises, the warrior shows a satisfied smile, knowing they finally trust in victory. Leaving the huge obstacle behind, the red group goes back to walking on the trails with the absolute certainty that they are capable. Meanwhile, the big brute veterans from the blue team manage to arrive at the small stone shrine in the middle of the magic forest. However, the troublemaker goes into shock when he notices the red spheres are gone and quickly deduces the newbie students lead the race. With a furious look, the veteran brute decides that if he cannot win, he will mess up the newbie's path. His classmate panics upon seeing the red-haired boy named Giulio raise his sword toward the shrine statue. In a panic, the other student yells for Giulio to stop, explaining that that is the statue of the Owl of Calmness. But it was already too late, and the stone object is broken into pieces, revealing that it did not hold any red sphere. With an evil smile on his face, Giulio says that with this, the statue's seal is finally broken. Far from there, Eito and his group feel disturbance in the air, and the protagonist wonders if that is a magical beast. Coming from the shadows of the forest, three pairs of bright red eyes stare at the hero's group. Eito feels a chill down his spine as he realizes that was not a phantom beast, but a real monster that woke up. Back at the shrine, the broken statue informs the blue team that they are now in third place in the competition. Meanwhile, the leader of another team, a boy with glasses, is outraged to learn they are losing to Eito's team. Irritated, he turns around and orders his teammates to hurry up so they do not embarrass him in the test. However, the student with glasses hears a terrifying scream coming from behind him. He looks back and his expression changes from anger to pure shock when he sees the scene. One of his classmates was captured by a giant monster and is now screaming desperately for help. Scared by the creature's ferocity, the group leader is paralyzed with fear. One of the students notices the monster's eyes and fears the creature has awakened as a real monster. Without mercy, the beast advances and attacks another student, who falls to the ground completely defenseless. Faced with the danger, one of the team members simply panics and starts running to save his own life. Seeing the chaotic situation, the cowardly leader decides to abandon his classmates and orders the ones left to follow him away from there. One of the boys who stayed behind cannot believe the leader is simply leaving a companion to face the beast alone. Somewhere else in the forest, Eito's team runs excitedly and one of them says that at this pace they will finish in first place. But Eito is serious, thinking that with the current team they would have no chance against an awakened monster, and promises to protect them. Suddenly, one of the youths points to the horizon, showing that the second checkpoint is right there ahead. The team arrives in front of a large building, and one of the members comments that the place looks like a library. Eito and the silver-haired girl look at the entrance, wondering what challenges await them inside. The protagonist clenches his fist as he feels a terrifying magical energy coming from inside the building. The group enters and sees giant bookshelves, one of them finding the place like a dungeon, but another trusts in Eito. Suddenly, Eito notices something strange in the air and goes on high alert. An intense blue light begins to shine coming from one of the bookshelves, taking everyone by surprise. Books start floating with a blue aura and the silver-haired girl screams, while Eito tries to figure out what is happening. One of the books opens by itself, releasing an incredible magical power, and the protagonist yells for everyone to be careful. Eito reaches his hand forward, trying to use a protection magic to defend his friends. However, he is shocked to realize he cannot use magic and wonders what is the reason for the block. The light from the floating books gets even stronger and envelopes Eito and the silver-haired girl. The protagonist feels dizzy and loses consciousness for a brief moment, falling to the floor. Upon recovering, he is helped by his classmate and wonders if they were teleported to another place. Both get into a defensive stance, Eito wanting to know if that is a trap, while the young woman notes the magic is even stronger. In the darkness of the place, a creature looking like a fox with glowing eyes watches them closely. Eito senses the hostile presence and turns his face toward the threat, ready to react to the imminent danger. A strange sound echoes through the library, indicating that something or someone is moving in the shadows between the shelves. Eito looks back toward his classmate, and both show surprise at what they are hearing. Suddenly, the scene changes and a giant, hairy creature with a horn on its forehead appears holding a white-haired boy. The young man captured by the beast seems unconscious, and his image is that of a boy who refers to someone as older brother. Eito asks the silver-haired girl in shock if that is her brother, and she confirms, calling herself Sarah. Sarah starts crying, remembering that her brother was defeated by a monster a long time ago while trying to protect her. A painful memory comes to the young woman's mind, showing her younger brother putting himself in front of her to face a monster. In her past, little Sarah reached out her hand in despair, screaming for her brother. She remembers begging the creature to return her brother, but her pleas were in vain. Back to the present, Sarah covers her ears and cries from guilt, apologizing to her late brother. The illusion shows the captured boy saying he could not do anything, intensifying Sarah's trauma. Eito realizes what is happening and hugs his classmate, understanding they are under a mental interference attack. The protagonist tries to calm Sarah, who is completely shaken by the visions of her past. At that moment, the illusion changes and now the monster is holding another person, a blue-haired girl. The girl seems to be being choked by the creature's hand, with an expression of pain on her face. With wide eyes, Eito recognizes the girl and shouts her name, Luna. Confused, Sarah asks who that person is, and the protagonist answers that it is his younger sister. Eito has a flashback of his first life, remembering with pain that he was not able to protect Luna from an attack. With a face full of anger, he realizes that the illusion is using his biggest regret to torment him. As if the psychological torture were not enough, two of the horned beasts materialize in front of Eito and Sarah. The girl gets terrified and pulls Eito's arm, yelling for them to run away as fast as possible. But with a serious expression, the protagonist states that they cannot escape from that place. He explains that that is the Room of Trials, a place where they are forced to fight their own pasts. Faced with the situation, Eito tells Sarah that the only option they have is to stay there and fight. Inspired by her companion's courage, the young woman seems to find the strength to face the challenge. Without hesitating, Eito charges alone against the two giant beasts blocking the path. Wielding his sword, he gets ready, thinking that he is stronger now and can overcome that mental attack. One of the creatures raises its huge arm, ready to crush the young warrior with a single blow. Eito jumps toward the monster, yelling that he is going to save Luna. Spinning in the air, the protagonist tries to use his flame ability to attack the creature. However, To his surprise, no flames come out of his sword when he tries to activate the power. Frustrated, Eito wonders if magic is also sealed inside that room of trials. He looks at his hand and realizes something is very wrong because it was not just the magic that was gone. The bracelet that Commander Girin gave him has disappeared, and he fears he has reverted to his weak version from his first life. Seeing her friend in trouble, Sarah shouts Ito's name, trying to warn him of the danger. One of the magical beasts advances relentlessly toward the protagonist, who is vulnerable. The creature roars and Eito recognizes it as an awakened rank C beast, which his former self could never defeat. A cold sweat runs down his face as he thinks that if he loses that battle, it will surely be the end of him. From afar, Sarah screams desperately for Eito to run and save his life. But a gleam of determination appears in the protagonist's eyes, who is not willing to give up. Ignoring the warnings, Eito braces for the impact and raises his arms to try to block the creature's giant fist. Even reverted to his old self, Eito declares he will not run away anymore, and that his only choice now is to fight. Sarah watches her companion use the sword to block the giant monster's leg, impressed by his courage. With a shout of effort, the protagonist manages to push the creature back, creating a spark from the impact. Thrown backward by the force of the blow, Eito refuses to go back to being the coward he was in his past life. In response, the monster concentrates a huge amount of ice energy in its hands, preparing a devastating attack. Desperate, Sarah recognizes the technique and says there is no way the young man can dodge that strike at such short range. But with a calm and focused look, the protagonist tells himself it is time to put an end to that situation. Declaring that he will break away from his old self, Eito steps forward and slashes through the ice attack with a single movement of his sword. The strike from his blade cuts through the energy and hits the monster's chest with a golden light. The warrior then uses the creature's giant hand as a support to land safely after his attack. His classmate is bewildered as she realizes Eito is facing the monster without using any kind of magic. Upon gripping his sword tighter, the boy feels his strength and understands that his abilities were not actually stolen. A gleam of hope appears in his eyes as he realizes that if that is the case, there is still a chance to win. Eito then turns to Sarah and yells that all of that is an illusion, and that she must not let herself be fooled by the visions. The silver-haired girl looks confused, still very shaken by her traumatic memories. With her hand on her chest, she says she cannot fight, feeling powerless in the face of her painful past. The protagonist reminds her of the promise she made, saying she decided to become a mage in her brother's place. Ito's words hit Sarah hard, who reacts with an expression of someone who has been awakened from a trance. Gathering all her courage, the young woman stands up with a new determination, stating that she wants to become stronger. With her face burning, she shouts that she will become the powerful mage her brother always dreamed of being. Seeing the change in his friend, Eito smiles and invites her to fight, guaranteeing that together they will be able to win. The two stand back to back, and Eito instructs Sarah to aim for the side of the monster that is missing an arm. With a war cry, the protagonist pushes his partner forward, and the two charge together against the enemies. Determined, the young woman thinks she will finally fulfill her brother's dream and become a great hero. In the same way, Eito promises himself he will gain the necessary strength to protect his sister Luna. With a powerful motion, the warrior jumps and delivers a vertical slash with his glowing sword. The strike hits the monster head, on opening a gap so his partner could attack the other creature. Seeing the perfect opening created by her leader, Sarah understands that that is her chance to shine. The girl slides across the floor and freezes the second monster's leg, immobilizing it completely. With a smile of relief, she turns to Eito, celebrating that they finally managed to take down the beasts. But the boy interrupts her with a serious warning, saying the fight is not over yet and pointing to the monsters. The creatures start glowing with a blue aura and heal from all damages as if nothing had happened. Both are shocked to realize they cannot defeat the enemies with physical attacks alone. Suddenly, the rest of the team arrives at the scene, and one of the boys says they are going to fight too. Eito and Sarah look back surprised, but the protagonist seems worried about his classmates' arrival. He thinks that those are rank C magical beasts, and it would be too dangerous for Libra and the others to deal with them. The gray-haired youth named Libra says it would not be fair to leave everything for Eito and Sarah to handle alone. With a confident smile, the blonde boy reinforces that the three of them just defeated a magical beast on their own. Sarah is shocked and impressed to learn that her classmates managed to beat a monster by themselves. She watches them with admiration, thinking about how they used to be shy and how much they have grown since the beginning of the journey. With a slight smile, Eito notices that Libra and the others also managed to overcome their own trials. Confident in his friend's growth, the protagonist agrees and says they will fight all together. Suddenly, the warrior notices a strange stone statue in the center of the library that was not there before. The statue is of a fox sitting on a pedestal, and its eyes glow with an intense blue light. At that very moment, blue flames appear in the corners of the room and on the chandeliers, and Libra is startled by the change. Eito looks at the flames and notices they are lighting up a specific set of books on a shelf. Sarah asks what is wrong, and the protagonist points, asking her to try to read the titles of the illuminated books. Putting the letters from the books together, they form the words, "Seal Magic," revealing the nature of the trap. Sarah finally understands and asks if that is the mechanism sealing everyone's magic in the room. With a victorious smile, Eito confirms and says that, now that they know this, they can finally defeat the monsters. Without wasting time, the young man runs toward one of the bookcases and pulls out one of the books that was not glowing. One of his teammates questions him, saying that this is not the right time to be reading a book. Ignoring the comment, Eito starts flipping through the pages, looking for some specific information. While he is distracted, one of the monsters prepares to attack the group, gathering energy in its hand. The creature launches a powerful ice attack towards Sarah and the others, who are defenseless. The girl instinctively tries to use her protection magic to create a barrier, but she gets frustrated remembering that she still cannot use magic, leaving her completely exposed to the strike. The ice attack hits Libra and the other two team members, who cry out in pain from the impact. Desperate, Sarah laments not being able to use even her shield magic to protect them. Seeing the vulnerable girl, one of the monsters slowly advances toward her, ready for the final blow. One of the fallen classmates yells to Eito, saying it is no use because they are trapped, but the protagonist pulls another book from the shelf and puts it in its place, saying the last one is the letter E. Immediately, the spines of the books on the shelf glow with an intense purple light, indicating the puzzle has changed. The fox statue in the center of the room reacts and its eyes now glow with a golden light. Eito breaks into a huge smile of satisfaction, confirming to himself that his theory was correct. A wave of golden light spreads through the library and the ice monsters seem to back away from the energy. Sarah turns to her leader, totally confused, and asks what just happened and what he did. Calmly, he explains that he just rearranged the books and asks her to read the new titles on the shelf. The books now form the phrase, "Claim the Sage," revealing the puzzle's solution. The girl is amazed when she realizes it was an anagram and praises Eito for noticing such a complex trick. The protagonist declares with confidence that that action must have finally broken the room's magic seal. He thinks he never would have noticed the trick if it had not been for the experience he gained in his first life. In a flashback, he remembers that, in his past life, military orders were always sent in code. He recalls a note with scrambled letters that in fact meant attack to the east. Back in the present, Eito reflects that no experience is wasted and a painful past can turn into strength. Now with magic released, he wields his sword and says it is time to finish off the creatures once and for all. The two monsters sense the change in the air and prepare to attack, but the hero duo is ready. The protagonist raises his weapon and focuses, asking for all his skills to return to normal. With her powers back, Sarah reaches out her hand and casts a powerful fire spell against the enemy. A huge ball of flames completely engulfs one of the creatures, which roars in pain upon being hit by the attack. The protagonist raises his sword surrounded by an intense yellow and green electric energy as he summons the Thunder Blade. Gripping the weapon tightly, he celebrates the return of his magic and realizes his strength is fully restored. Eito charges quickly against the enemy, leaving a bright trail of lightning as he warns that his finishing move is ready. Giving no chance for defense, the youth slashes the chest of the immense horned monster with a swift and precise movement of his electric blade. A colossal explosion of electric energy erupts from the creature's body as soon as the boy's blade breaches its defenses for good. With an extremely focused look, the hero gives a slight confident smile and tells himself that everything went according to plan. The huge monster falls defeated on the hall floor while the boy and his companion maintain a firm stance for combat. Their two teammates are impressed by the feat and praise the duo for having taken down that threat with a single strike. With a kind smile on her face, Sarah approaches her friend and congratulates him on managing to finish the monster with such precision. Returning the look, Eito smiles back at the silver-haired girl and says in a friendly way that they won together. At that moment, the second monster's eyes shine with an intense blue energy as it prepares for a surprise attack. A pillar of blue light appears behind Sarah, and the protagonist realizes right away that her creature had not been defeated yet. The energy rises to the ceiling and soon forms a dark whirlpool charged with strong purple lightning spinning uncontrollably. The four students look up completely shocked at the magnitude of that purple storm illuminating the entire dark hall. Fearing the worst, Sarah recognizes that advanced thunder spell and warns the others she does not have enough magic to block the damage. A gigantic spear of electrical energy descends from the purple vortex at very high speed, going straight to the center of the group of youths. Faced with the overwhelming attack, the short-haired classmate closes her eyes and curls up her body, believing that that would be the end for them. With imminent danger, Eito's blue eyes focus on the threat, and he reacts quickly to try to save his companions' lives. A massive protective barrier in the shape of hexagons rises around the team, absorbing all the impact of the lethal discharge. The protagonist breathes relieved for having arrived in time to protect the group and shows magic seals glowing on the palms of his hands. Impressed by her friend's agility, Sarah notes that he conjured the shield spell at the exact moment of the overwhelming impact. Observing the hero with admiration, the girl praises his power and reflects that he seems to get stronger and stronger as time passes. The peace lasts very little as the gray-haired classmate widens his eyes and yells desperately, asking Eito to be careful. The gigantic monster roars furiously once again and opens its mouth, revealing a powerful sphere of flames forming inside. The youth narrowly dodges a huge blast of fire and concludes that that dangerous creature can also use advanced magic. Landing firmly on the floor, the boy faces his opponent and guarantees with much determination that he would not lose in a test of speed. But suddenly scarlet magic circles light up the floor right underneath the protagonist, making him back away from the shock of the trap. A huge explosion hits the beast right at the moment someone loudly warns everyone to run from there before the damage increases. The one responsible for the magic attack is Sarah, who reaches her hand forward with a tense expression while asking her team to flee from there. The smoke from the explosion cannot hold the creature, which only roars enraged and charges toward the blue-haired warrior. Desperate, seeing the beast bursting through the mist toward them, the other student alerts everyone that the situation just got out of control. Sarah holds her breath, noting the deadly danger coming, and goes into shock, unable to come up with any quick magic to defend herself. But before the monster reaches the group, Eito jumps through the air with his sword in hand and comes down, cutting the wind toward the enemy. With a fierce look of pure determination, the protagonist reminds the creature that he had already warned about being the fastest one there. The hero lands elegantly in the hall, while the massive monstrous ape has its entire body split in half right behind him. Without looking back and with a victorious smile on his face, Eito Kiryu sheathes the sword and calmly announces that the game is over. His three teammates run relieved through the destroyed scenery, happy to realize the warrior survived the tough clash. With her hands clasped as if in prayer, the short-haired girl tearfully asks Eito to never give them such a huge scare again. Laughing somewhat awkwardly, the boy apologizes to the group, while thinking to himself that he still needs to train a lot to get stronger. After all the tension of the battle, Eito approaches a fox statue and places a round jewel on it to unlock the next passage. With the red jewel in hand, the protagonist tells the team they should keep moving forward through the open path. Outside, the observers look at a holographic screen and comment in admiration that Eito's team is already advancing to the third stage. Professor Ivan watches the boy's performance with a furious expression and swears to himself he will not let him win. The man in the suit holds a glowing purple magic orb, while muttering angrily that the kid must be cheating. Giving an evil smile, the teacher states he has finally fulfilled the dark promise he had made to one of his students. In another part of the test, a red-haired youth leads his own group, wielding a drawn sword through the stone scenery. The team is suddenly cornered by two huge hairy monsters with horns blocking the passage of the dark corridor. But even before the combat starts, the magical beasts simply vanish into thin air, leaving the red-haired boy quite confused. One of his teammates considers that a stroke of luck, and the leader tells the big guy to hurry up. As they walk hurriedly through the corridors of the gloomy library, the red-haired boy gets his partner's attention. They encounter another group, led by a boy with glasses who demands a thank you for having eliminated the monsters from the area. Hearing that arrogant provocation, the boy scowls and glares at the other student with a look of deep irritation. The bespectacled leader calmly confesses that he bribed Professor Ivan with plenty of money to have him on his side in the test. With a smile of superiority on his face, the cheater reveals he also ordered the teacher to cast another spell on them. Far from there, Eito's team walks through a forest covered by a dense fog while following the compass to the north. The protagonist deduces the goddess statue must be nearby and suggests to the group they take a short break there. The gray-haired classmate gets curious and asks how the team leader knows so much about that specific monument. Giving a tense smile, the hero thinks to himself there is no way he can reveal this information comes from his past life. At that moment, the pink-haired girl notices she lost her scarf and tries to remember where she might have dropped the item. The teammate kindly offers his own white scarf to his friend near a stone-old statue. The story focuses again on the boy with glasses group walking through the forest when one of his allies calls attention. The student finds the girl's scarf dropped on the ground and tells the others Eito's team must have passed through that spot. The bespectacled leader gives an evil smile, finding the exact marker he needed to continue his dishonest plan. He remembers the bought tip from the teacher indicating the test's correct route would follow in the direction of the wooden woodpecker. Feeling that victory is guaranteed, the boy points to the sculpture and orders his group to follow hurriedly down that path. Hidden among the trees right behind them, the red-haired youth watches everything and confirms his suspicions about the rival. The boy watches closely in silence and deduces in a low voice that the rival with glasses receives privileged information from the outside. His teammate grips the handle of his axe with great anger and threatens to end the cheater right there in the middle of the woods. Maintaining his cool, the red-haired leader asks for calm and says a smart person knows very well how to use a cheater. While the boys plan to follow the rival closely, the scene cuts to Eito completely shocked at what he sees in the forest. The protagonist's team stops abruptly on the edge of a large cliff, not understanding how they ended up in that dangerous place. The gray-haired friend gets Eito's attention and asks him to look at the state of the navigation instrument he is carrying. The magic compass needle starts spinning wildly, proving the magnetic field in that area is distorted. The pink-haired girl holds the map and asks tensely if they took the wrong path, and Eito confirms the bad suspicion. The hero examines the paper carefully and concludes the group have been traveling on a completely different route than the original. The young man reflects thoughtfully because the magnetic anomaly should only start taking effect after they pass the statue. He remembers his past life when he went through this same test and recalls exactly how the equipment behaved. Back then, the magnetism only became unstable when he approached the real stone goddess and lost his northern bearing. Returning to the present, the blue-haired hero widens his eyes, realizing someone must have set a trap there. Worried about the unfavorable situation, Sarah turns to the protagonist, asking for a new strategy to get the group out of there. Seeing the sky turning orange, the gray-haired boy gets desperate because they will not be able to travel during the night. But the protagonist shows a serious and confident look while countering, saying the situation will be much better when night falls. Not understanding anything, the friend gets quite confused and questions the reason for that statement while Sarah watches him closely. With a beautiful smile on his face, Eito replies calmly that the gray-haired classmate himself will be in charge of guiding the team. Pointing his finger up, the hero remembers the boy understands everything about constellations and asks him to use the stars as a guide. Understanding the genius plan, the boy named Forno breaks into a huge smile and says excitedly to leave the stars to him. Faced with that strategy, Sarah is impressed and thinks to herself whether Eito had already picked the group, foreseeing the problem. With focused eyes full of determination, the hero clenches his fist, stating the test is not over and they will win. Observing the surrounding scenery, Forno puts his hand to his head, trying to focus on the first stars appearing in the sky. Analyzing the map, the short-haired girl tells Sarah the team can take a shortcut to the third stage by heading south. Focused on his new mission, Forno focuses his vision on a small cross-shaped constellation shining brightly in the vastness. The youth points very confidently and explains that is the Southern Cross constellation and that it indicates the correct path. Very grateful, Eito touches his friend's shoulder with a friendly smile and asks him to lead the group for the rest of the long way. After a while of walking, they finally arrive at the dark entrance of the third stage, built like a cave in the rocks. The entrance to the dark place is guarded by the sculpture of a muscular man holding a real lit torch in his stone hand. Far from there, the bespectacled leader holds a torch, smiling confidently, believing his team is in first place in the test. The red-haired boy walks right behind in the shadows and mentally mocks, thanking the cheater Azure for guiding the way. The giant of the team also holds a flame in his hands and lets out a loud laugh, celebrating that the plan they set up worked out very well. Interrupting the party, the red-haired leader tells the group to wait and orders them to throw water on the location's torches to render them useless. With an evil smile on his face, another member deduces the leader's goal is to play dirty to hinder Eito's team. Displaying a merciless facial expression, the red-haired boy agrees and warns that no one should go easy when they want to win. Wielding the fire high, he leads the team down the corridors, ordering everyone to run to overtake Azure's group. Outside the large cave, the image shows the immense green forest illuminated by the last sun rays of the day. Cutting the tall vegetation with his sword, a brown-haired warrior asks Eito's team to hurry across. Running at a very accelerated pace, the protagonist comments relieved that the shortcut Forno found helped make up for the lost time. Right behind him, Sarah takes a deep breath and goes back, thinking if the hero chose Forno precisely to foresee the risk of getting lost. Deeply admiring the hero's leadership ability, the platinum-haired girl concludes he is far too incredible. After crossing the forest, the brown-haired warrior finally spots the huge stone statue with the torch and alerts his allies. Eito and his four companions stop running as soon as they reach the rocky ground, celebrating the end of the long and tiring run. The feeling of victory does not last long because Sarah widens her golden eyes in shock and tells the others to look at the ground. The girl in uniform points to several fallen torches and small puddles of water, revealing they were all entirely put out. The brown-haired friend punches the wind consumed by anger while muttering angrily at the cheaters who sabotage the cave entrance. Pondering the scenario, Eito puts his hand on his chin and considers asking Amy to create new torches with magic, but discards the idea. Clenching his right fist very firmly, the hero emits an intense blue magical glow from his skin, stating he has another option. Observing the absolute darkness of the cave, the pink-haired girl speaks, terrified that it is too dangerous to advance like that. Emitting dangerous bluish bolts of energy from his fingertips, the protagonist touches Forno's shoulder and asks them to leave it to him. The youth steps away from the group and extends his palm, immediately creating a huge sparkling sphere that illuminates the entire dark environment. Smiling confidently, he remembers that in his past life, that was just a useless light spell, but that it now fit perfectly well. Charmed by the luminous spell, Sarah smiles, relieved, seeing the whole team will be able to cross the path without needing torches. Balancing the sphere of light high up, very naturally, Eito takes the point of the squad and calls everyone to move forward. The bespectacled leader and his team run hurriedly through the dark corridors of the cave, carrying a single torch. With a tense expression on his face, the cheating boy stops, suddenly noticing something wrong on the path. He complains, irritated, realizing his team took the wrong path again and returned to the same statue as before. Completely lost, the purple-haired leader questions how they were supposed to cross that labyrinth. The young man recalls frustratedly that they had already returned to Area 3 right after passing the fourth sector of the place. Meanwhile, the red-haired boy's team tries to catch their breath, understanding the place is a large labyrinth. The rival with red streaks grinds his teeth, totally furious, while trying to figure out a way to advance from there. In another part of the cave, the hero illuminates the immense stone statue and notes that that is the starting point of the test. They observe 3 different passages plunged in darkness, while Amy tries to figure out which route they should take. The protagonist warns the group that no one can reach the end of that dungeon without choosing the right paths. He remembers his first life when his squad failed miserably in that labyrinth and ended up being eliminated. Maintaining a calm demeanor, the young man focuses his vision on the statue and thinks to himself he now knows well how to beat the game. Using his light magic, the boy turns to Forno and comments that stone sculpture represents the Orion constellation. The gray-haired classmate confirms the leader's suspicion and adds, saying Orion is a giant from Greek mythology. With a quite admiring look, the magic student explains proudly that the giant was a great master of the hunt. Faced with his friend's vast knowledge, Eito smiles in a friendly way and says the time has come for the boy to shine again. Pointing to the dark path, the hero instructs the team to follow the routes connecting the stars like in the constellation. Hearing that unusual plan, the platinum-haired girl widens her golden eyes, not quite understanding the idea. Sarah stares at her friend, totally surprised, and tries to confirm if that really is the great trick hidden in the dark test. Forno is moved by the trust placed in him, and Eito guarantees his classmate is the only one capable of guiding them to the exit. Observing the red sphere engraved on the statue's arm, Forno begins to calculate the positions mentally like on a map. With an extremely excited smile, the gray-haired student points to the illuminated corridor and sets the correct route. The hero agrees right away and asks aloud for the whole squad to follow the steps of the young specialist. The brown-haired warrior hugs Forno around the neck in a friendly way and says he is happy to have him on their team. The two boys run ahead down the stone corridor while Sarah watches the group leader walking right behind. The young woman in uniform wonders mentally if Eito assembled that whole squad because he had already foreseen every challenge. Overflowing with determination, the spell warrior turns to the team and guarantees that altogether they will win the test. A few hours after walking quite a bit through the dungeon, Eito illuminates the rustic floor and comments on their good progress. The hero couple looks closely at the darkness at the back of the tunnel, where the silhouette of a new sculpture begins to appear. Quite animated, Forno points his index finger forward, getting his friend's attention to the stone monument. The huge statue displays a red jewel with the number 8, and the squad deduces that must be the final marker. The brown warrior indicates the lonely path ahead and cheerfully announces the final objective is right there at the end. Amy thanks Forno very sincerely and admits the team would never have made it this far if it were not for him. Humble about the praises, Forno says the credit goes to Eito, because the group only passed the labyrinth thanks to the leader's reasoning. But suddenly Amy looks back with a somewhat lost expression, and the protagonist asks what caught her attention. The girl just points in the direction of the large hunter statue, warning the boys there is something strange there. Looking closer, they notice there is a golden key hanging on a necklace around the stone figure's neck. Eito and Sarah notice a strange noise coming from above and look up, seeing the shadowy claws of imminent danger. At another point in the place, a huge double door shows an altar containing 3 glowing stones waiting for the finish. The fellow warrior cheers with emotion beside the protagonist, concluding their team arrived in first place in the test. Holding the red spheres near the altar, the confident protagonist comments that they arrived before Azure's group. The brown-haired warrior tries to pull the heavy ring of the large double door, but surprisingly warns that it will not open. Sarah approaches the entrance with a curious look and draws her classmates' attention to an important detail on the wall. The image reveals a large lock adorned with several red precious stones, indicating that they need a key. Holding the golden key they found earlier, Amy suggests that item should work and offers to test it out. The pink-haired girl inserts the key into the decorated lock and tries to turn it, but frustratedly realizes that it does not open anything. Quite confused by the situation, Amy asks the reason for that, and Sarah brings up the hypothesis that it might be the wrong key. Observing the shape of the majestic lock, Eito finally understands the riddle and slightly widens his blue eyes. But before the hero can explain the trick, a terrified scream echoes through the gloomy corridor, startling the two young people. Looking up at the ceiling, they see Forno wrapped from head to toe in a thick web, hanging upside down. The squad leader recognizes the danger right away and widens his eyes, amazed by the creature hidden in the shadows. A gigantic monster spider with glowing eyes slowly descends, hanging by its own menacing web. Seeing their companion being held hostage by the disgusting creature, Amy and the brown-haired warrior scream for their friend. With her heart beating fast, Sarah suggests that everyone attack the spider with magic at the same time to try to bring it down. Eito interrupts the girl immediately and warns that a direct joint magical attack could end up hurting Forno. Feeling the tension rise, the young woman with platinum hair asks in an anguished manner what would be the best way out for them. Keeping his cool, the protagonist shares that he also faced that same type of monster in his past life. A brief flashback shows the creature hanging from the ceiling of a military supply warehouse, causing widespread panic. The young man remembers that Captain Glenn was present at the time of the attack and knew exactly how to deal with that threat. The experienced soldier pointed forward in a commanding way and ordered the doors to be opened because the beast feared the light. Back in the present, Eito Kiryu clenches his teeth with great determination, knowing exactly what he needs to do now. The young man remembers the red jewel with the number 8 that was attached to the arm of the large statue in the middle of the labyrinth. Holding the beautiful key, he concludes that he only needs to combine his glowing magic sphere with that golden object. Amy understands her classmate's reasoning right away and confidently states that she can create a key of light. While they put together their strategy, the giant spider begins to hoist Forno back to the top of the cave, scaring everyone. Without wasting a single second, Eito immediately conjures his small sphere of magic light with his right hand extended. With a firm and athletic movement, he throws the glowing ball with all his might directly at the creature on the ceiling. The intense light hits the spider squarely, causing it to let out a terrible yelp of pain as it tries to retreat through the webs. The protagonist smiles in relief to see that his theory was correct and that the monster truly hates bright light. However, the magic sphere he launched begins to lose its energy rapidly while illuminating that closed space. Sarah notices the problem immediately and points upward, alerting her classmates about the change in the situation. With the glowing spells slowly fading, the 8-legged monster stops retreating and turns back to face the group of students. Noticing the swift approach of the enemy, the blue-haired leader grits his teeth tensely, realizing that time is up. The beast's scary black legs close around Forno, who cries desperately, begging for help. Eito feels a chill and mentally acknowledges that he has reached his limit trying to delay the beast with that magic. In this decisive moment, Amy runs quickly toward her classmate with a confident look, holding the solution in her hands. The pink-haired girl extends the palm of her hand, revealing the fully prepared golden key, and calls the hero's attention. The mysterious key now emits a golden glow, and the student proudly announces that she managed to enchant the object completely. The protagonist catches the magic item in the air, while deeply thanking his friend for being so quick with the process. Holding the glowing key firmly, the young man prepares to unlock the double door and finally get the group out of there. The hero and his warrior classmate position themselves firmly at the large wooden door and agree to push it together on 3. The heavy door panels slowly begin to open, revealing an extremely strong and radiant light coming from the other side. With a furious look, the blue-haired leader warns that the disgusting creature will have to swallow that flash. The huge monstrous spider retreats in fear, being completely engulfed and scorched by the intense light that floods the cave. The dark beast lets out one last deafening shriek as it tries to cover its face before being completely defeated. The smoke clears, revealing the flattened spider on the ground, while the 4 students watch the scene with relieved expressions. Celebrating the victory by clenching her fists, Sarah smiles excitedly and shouts to everyone that they finally beat the creature. Eito quickly crouches down to untangle Forno's webs, and the boy thanks his friend for saving him from that tight spot. After the dust settles, Amy and the others start walking calmly toward the illuminated door to exit the cave. With one hand on his classmate's shoulder, the protagonist smiles excitedly, saying that now they just need to reach the final goal. Outside the trial, the students watch a holographic map and comment in surprise that Eito's team has taken the lead again. Looking at the scoreboard, Professor Oven gives a wicked half-smile and thinks ironically that is a great shame. The villain in a suit reaffirms in his own thoughts that the young warrior will not be able to reach the finish line. Behind him, an old white-haired headmaster notices the professor's malicious smile with a very suspicious look. In his cruel mind, Ivan celebrates the fact that he has already altered the holographic map to place the destination in a different spot. Far from there, the pink-haired girl carefully analyzes the map and informs the group that the finish line must be very close. The team continues climbing a mountainous and rocky terrain, while their teammate encourages everyone to keep trying hard. The hero wipes the sweat from his face, finding the situ very strange, as the academy was supposed to be at the bottom of the mountain. The group's warrior calls his friend's attention in the middle of the climb and firmly warns that they seem to be on the wrong path. Completely confused by the sudden warning, Sarah pants and guarantees that she was following the map's instructions with total precision. Eito analyzes the holographic map, feeling the tension rise as he realizes that the projected route does not match reality. Unable to believe it, the platinum-haired girl is in shock and tries to understand how such a big mistake could happen. Clenching his fist in anger, Eito deduces that this sudden change in the route can only be the work of Ivan's cheating. Amy looks worriedly at the group, warning that the other teams will pass them if they decide to turn back now. Faced with this, the protagonist turns to the brown-haired warrior, calling him Libra and asking if he knows any shortcuts. Libra thinks fast and states that they can cut through the withered forest, but he highlights that the place is full of strong beasts. Fearing the worst, Eito thinks to himself that he cannot throw his team into such great danger even if it guarantees victory. But Forno and Amy show unexpected courage and exchange extremely focused looks when faced with the final obstacle. The gray-haired boy confidently extends his hand and asks Libra to guide them through the withered forest without thinking twice. Surprised by this attitude, the hero asks if he is not afraid, and Sarah also stares at the boy to confirm the decision. Grasping her uniform over her chest, Amy firmly declares that she feels no fear because she fully trusts her team. Being very honest, Forno confesses that he is scared, but he clenches his fist, revealing that his will to win is much greater. Excited by his friend's determination, Libra bumps his fists with a smile and guarantees they will be fine with the leader by their side. The protagonist watches his companions with a tender look and mentally acknowledges that everyone has evolved a lot during the test. With an affectionate smile, Sarah looks at Eito and reflects in amazement that he is not only strong but an excellent coach. Supporting the group's courage, Eito says that even though they are low rank, they will be unbeatable if they always keep fighting. Showing a confident smile, the leader summons everyone to the withered forest and promises to guide them to a grand victory. Meanwhile, the scoreboard outside alerts the audience that Eito's group took the wrong path and Azure's team has taken the lead. The old headmaster with white hair and beard narrows his blue eyes with a very serious expression, smelling foul play. Ivan continues to flaunt his smile of superiority, unaware that the headmaster is intimidatingly watching him from behind. The white-haired man activates a mind-reading spell called Mentalist, revealing magical circles in his eye. Through Ivan's mind, the headmaster hears him demanding a large amount of money from Azure for winning the trial. Overcome by a silent fury, the experienced headmaster judges that dishonest behavior unworthy of a teacher. In the forest, Azure's group runs, celebrating in advance that first place is already guaranteed for them. Right behind, the red-haired boy rushes his team, warning that there is still time to catch up to the big cheater. In another darker part of the woods, Sarah suddenly stops and points curiously at something strange in the middle of the path. The monstrous creature reveals itself as a dangerous rank B mutant plant full of vines and very sharp teeth. The protagonist lets a drop of sweat run down his face and regrets running into such a problem when they are in such a hurry. Hiding in the bushes, the team realizes that the enemy is too strong and has no idea how to defeat the bizarre plant. Analyzing the enemy calmly, Eito concludes that fire spells are the best option against botanical-type creatures. The young man turns his face toward his platinum-haired classmate and asks her to use the grease magic on the creature. Sarah is confused, remembering that this power doubles the magic force, but Eito counters that it will allow for a superior spell. Quite apprehensive, the girl warns that using this magic consumes a gigantic amount of energy from the user themselves. Observing the sinister plant from afar, Sarah takes a deep breath and warns the protagonist that she will only be able to attack once. Eito leans lightly on a rock with a focused look and deduces that this is the only way for them to keep advancing in the trial. The rest of the team share tense looks but agree to risk everything on the blue-haired leader's daring plan. Given the green light, the young man calls his friend's name and orders her to fire the sticky magic without any hesitation. With a determined and brave look, Sarah prepares for the attack and announces that she will give it her all with the combined spell. The girl conjures a large blue magic circle in her hands and casts the grease magic toward the giant botanical monster. Right after, the protagonist closes his eyes as he is completely enveloped by a very intense green magical aura. Eito extends the palm of his right hand forward and fires the flaming hurricane spell with all his vital force. The young man hopes the plan works out, as that is a high-level flaming attack that exceeds his own strength. The huge weed monster is completely caught off guard by the offensive while Forno and the other girl watch tensely. The squad leader flashes a big smile lit by the green flames and celebrates that the strategy worked well. The devastating strike takes the colossal shape of a green firebird that hits the monster head on with pure destruction. Seeing the charred creature fall to the ground, Sarah smiles in relief and celebrates alongside Eito the victory achieved in the woods. Forno and the warrior Libra celebrate, amazed that their friend defeated a rank B beast with just one strike. With no time to celebrate, the leader alerts the group that the other teams must be almost reaching the finish line. The story shifts focus back to the cheating boy with glasses, who is running hurriedly down the trail with his allies right behind him. The fake leader shows a smile of pure confidence upon realizing that the exit from the dark forest is right in front of them. Observing the open horizon, the boy concludes that victory is already theirs and that they just need to cross the end of that trail. Meanwhile, the red-haired rival runs like crazy, yelling for his own group to stop stalling and walk faster. Suddenly, a desperately panicked scream echoes through the tranquility of the forest, drawing the attention of all the students. The red-haired boy stops running immediately and widens his eyes, amazed by the terrible sound he heard. The great threat reveals itself as a gigantic and intimidating owl with piercing eyes, holding Azure in its claws. The cheater falls into total panic and yells for his allies to attack the owl while being lifted into the air by the animal. Azure's partners fall to their knees, shaking with fear, and declare that they do not have the slightest chance against a rank A beast. Observing the titanic creature from afar, the big guy Giulio apprehensively asks the redhead how they are going to fight against that. The red-haired leader keeps his cool and replies that they are not going to fight and that running away is the only way to win. The feathered beast turns its immense eyes toward the red-haired boy's team while still holding the cheater by the shoulders. The gigantic owl attacks fiercely and lands a blow on Azure, who screams in pain as he is thrown backward. The bespectacled boy's body flies through the air and ends up squarely hitting the red-haired leader and his big ally. Fallen on the ground, the young man with red streaks tries to get up with a terrified expression and mutters that the situation is terrible. The immense monstrous bird opens its wings and begins to conjure a gigantic incandescent orange magic circle right in front of it. The devastating flame spell is fired in the shape of a huge fireball, heading straight toward the fallen students. The fire explosion hits the ground near the three boys, who merely cover their faces with their arms, screaming in despair. Completely terrified, Azure laments out loud, saying that it is too unfair to have to face a beast of that level. Far from that mess, Libra guides Eito's squad out of the dark forest and announces with relief that they have left the woods. Totally exhausted by the tension, Amy falls to her knees on the grassy floor and confesses with a sigh that the crossing was scary. The blue-haired leader watches his companions resting and praises everyone for gathering so much courage on the mission. With an excited smile on her face, Sarah points forward, warning that the exit is near and asking everyone to run. But the joy is very short-lived as Eito and Forno widen their eyes in fright upon hearing a dark roar coming from nearby. The platinum-haired girl turns around quickly and points, trembling with fear, toward the direction where the scary noise came from. The gigantic owl with sharp claws and glowing red eyes stares at the newcomers with a very threatening posture. Right behind the monstrous beast, the students can see the rival teams lying on the ground, appearing to be badly hurt. The protagonist assesses the situation with great tension and deduces that mere students could never beat a beast of that level. Worried about the danger, Libra agrees with the leader and suggests that the team run to the finish line to ask for help. The blue-haired hero focuses his gaze intensely on the immense creature and remains silent, weighing all his options. He observes the young man with red streaks fallen on the ground from afar and realizes the severity of the damage caused by the magic bird. Making a risky decision, the young man grits his teeth and shows that he is ready to face that immense and dangerous challenge. Realizing her classmate's intentions, Sarah holds his arm in distress, asking him not to try to fight the beast alone. The platinum-haired girl stares at her friend with a very serious look in her eyes and tries to argue to convince him to retreat now. Struggling not to give in, the red-haired boy tries to lean on his sword as he watches the scene with a badly bruised face. Ignoring the warnings, the blue-haired hero starts running at top speed toward the monster without any fear. Committed to saving his rivals, the young man decides that no matter how dangerous that attitude is, he must try. Stopping in front of the huge owl, Eito protects the injured students with his body and yells for his team to get out of there right away. Seeing his rival putting himself at risk to protect him, Azure widens his eyes and is completely shocked by that attitude. Wielding his blade with total firmness, the hero faces the gigantic bird and shouts, warning that he is now the new opponent. The monstrous beast is not intimidated by the provocation and lets out a furious and deafening squawk, showing its frightening beak. The protagonist releases his magic energy, forming a vibrant aura around his body, and states that only he can win the battle. Without diverting his focus from the immense bird, the squad leader reinforces the request for the rest of his group to escape safely. Panting, the young man with red streaks accuses Eito of throwing away the chance to win the trial just to try to help out there. The huge winged beast accumulates a large amount of dark energy in its sharp claws, preparing for a new attack. The hero quickly counters by summoning a huge glowing magic circle on the ground right beneath his own feet. The young man realizes the monster's power level and makes it clear that the beast has already started the fight by resorting to a high-level spell. Powerless, the red-haired rival simply watches the scene and can feel the terrible, overwhelming danger emanating from that confrontation. A devastating rain of ice spears falls from a blue vortex in the sky, leaving no free space for the young warrior to dodge. In a quick response, the warrior concentrates magic in his hands and conjures an intense shield of bright flames around his body. The massive beast's freezing attack plunges with full force, brutally colliding against the young fighter's barrier of fire. Protected by the flames, the protagonist stands firm on the ground, neutralizing the sharp ice spears that melt in the intense heat. Sweating cold, the red-haired rival is completely amazed at the hero's speed in casting a high-level magic. Eito sighs tensely and thinks that the real problem starts now, as he will not be able to use spells until his energy recovers. The gigantic monstrous owl opens its beak and fires an immense sphere of dark energy charged with destructive lightning. Noticing the imminent danger, the blue-haired hero holds his sword tight and panics upon recognizing that attack. With his blue eyes wide in distress, the young man realizes he has no defensive energy and tries to find a quick way out. The overwhelming lightning descends from the skies with full force, heading straight toward the protagonist, who remains unprotected on the ground. Faced with the extreme impact, the squad leader is surprised when a magical defense suddenly appears in front of him. The lightning storm crashes violently against an invisible barrier of light, generating a massive bang throughout the forest. The young man watches in awe as the large dome of blue hexagons blocks all the energy from the great bird. Looking closely at the huge bluish protection, the young man tries to understand where that magic shield came from at such an exact moment. Quite confused by the rescue, the hero looks quickly over his shoulder, trying to find out who saved him from that attack. To his great surprise, Sarah firmly extends her hand, while Forno, Libra, and Amy position themselves right behind her. The blue-haired leader questions the group, reminding them that he had ordered everyone to flee to the final stretch of the trial. Giving a gentle smile, Sarah replies that they would never cross the finish line without him and that they decided to fight all together. Leaning on his giant classmate, the young rated proudly says that his team is not going to run away like a bunch of cowards either. Hearing the support of so many classmates, the protagonist cannot hold back his emotion and breaks into a smile of pure gratitude on his face. Totally reinvigorated, he wields his sword and firmly proposes that everyone join forces to bring down the flying monster. The gigantic bird with dangerous claws lifts its head and lets out another deafening roar, showing that it is ready to strike. Flapping its immense wings, the beast launches a massive volley of razor-sharp black feathers toward the entire group. The blue-haired hero widens his eyes in pure despair upon recognizing that terrible attack of penetrating projectiles. Sweating with tension, the platinum-haired girl anxiously warns that there will not be enough time to raise the magic barrier again. Seeing the rain of dangerous feathers approaching at high speed, the young woman closes her eyes, believing that it would be the end. Fordo's mind travels back in time, and he mentally apologizes to his older brother for not being able to become a hero. Suddenly, the girl opens her bright eyes, very impressed to notice that the shots did not hit her in any way. Eito places himself firmly in front of his friend, managing to deflect and catch one of the highly powerful projectiles with his own bare hand. His classmates are completely stunned, trying to understand how the protagonist's reflexes managed to be so fast. Maintaining a calm expression amid the chaos, the blue-haired warrior looks back and asks if Sarah is hurt. With tears in her eyes and rosy cheeks, the girl smiles, thinking that her great hero has always been by her side. The red-haired rival approaches wielding his sword and questions Eito on how they could defeat a freak of that size. Analyzing the beast, the hero focuses his gaze and orders all the students to cast their fire and magic at once. The boy with red streaks hesitates for a moment, highly doubting that such a low-level magic could hurt that beast. Facing his battle companion with unshakable confidence, Eito guarantees that he has a good plan and commands him to attack without fear. Trusting the squad leader, the 6 apprentices raise their hands, creating small golden magic circles simultaneously. A gigantic explosion of flames hits the immense winged bird, making it thrash around, feeling the heat of the basic spell. With a clever smile, the hero teaches that isolated attacks can be weak, but when united, they become a true fortress. Suffering from intense burns, the gigantic monster opens its shrill beak and screams desperately in the midst of the massive fire. In a crazy trick, the beast begins to freeze its own body to put out the fire, leaving the protagonist quite worried. The ult completely envelopes itself in an icy aura, extinguishing the magic flames and revealing it possesses a powerful blizzard spell. The young woman wields her sword, retreating in fear, and laments that the weak fire attacks will no longer cause damage to the enemy. However, the warrior keeps his smile on his face, revealing that the counterattack was exactly what he wanted from that bird. A generic figure appears on the screen to explain how the defensive ice spell protects the body against the burning flames. Wielding his sword, Eito explains that defensive magic has a major flaw, as it reduces the user's speed. Seizing the opportunity, the young man dashes at high speed, passing by Sarah and guaranteeing that the monster has no chance. The platinum-haired girl watches her friend leap toward the enemy, intensely questions if he will only use the sword. Preparing a strong mid-air strike, the hero replies full of confidence that his physical weapon is all he needs right now. The hero focuses his gaze, remembering the former captain, and mentally declares that the skills from his past life will be enough. With a quick and precise movement, the protagonist slashes the frozen monster, causing a devastating impact on the immense creature. The gigantic monstrous ult begins to shatter while the warrior finishes his imposing movement through the air. His teammates are amazed and Sarah excitedly praises the hero while the others admire their friend's strength. With an expression of defeat, the leader with red streaks takes a deep breath and reflects on the true power of a strong warrior. The rival mentally accepts that he could never defeat the blue-haired warrior, who simply smiles in a friendly way. Without showing arrogance, the protagonist thanks his friends for their support and confesses that he could not have done it without the group's help. The calm is cut short when Libra desperately calls the leader's attention to warn him that the cheaters are gone. The red-haired rival leans on his big friend and angrily curses the dishonest ones for running to the finish line. Aware of the cowardly betrayal, the protagonist narrows his eyes, thinking about how Azure plays dirty and acts despicably until the very end. Without wasting another second, the warrior starts running again, leading his squad with the hope of crossing the finish line. The cheating, bespectacled leader kneels on the ground and screams in celebration that his team has finally won first place. The crowd of students applauds the squad's arrival as they announce that the purple-haired boys' team was the winner. Right behind, the rival with red streaks arrives, supported by the big guy Julio, and laments that they only got second place. The protagonist and Sarah cross the finish line panting, while the announcer states that the Tiger team came in third position. Showing a mocking smile, the fake winner provokes Eito, saying that his group took too long and arrived in last place. Indignant at the ingratitude, Sarah questions how they had the nerve to steal first place after being saved. Keeping his arrogant pose, the boy with glasses could not care less about the scolding and brags, saying that he is the only big winner. The white-haired headmaster approaches the cheating boy and extends his hands, congratulating the student on taking first place. Hearing that he would receive 100 points as a prize for the victory, the boy proudly crosses his arms, sure that he will level up. Watching the scene from afar, the young hero clicks his tongue and concludes that Azure and the professor set everything up to sabotage him. He easily deduces that the fake map and the change in the final route were cruel tricks created by that villainous duo. The protagonist accuses the rival of playing dirty, but the cheater just laughs and tells the hero to stop whining about the defeat. The argument is interrupted when the headmaster calls the bespectacled boy's attention again, repeating his fake congratulations. Believing he is above everyone else, the dishonest student bows politely and thanks the headmaster with a lot of insincerity. The mood suddenly changes when the older man takes on a serious posture and warns that that was what he would like to say. Without stalling, the headmaster announces loud and clear that the bespectacled boy's entire squad is officially disqualified. The accomplice professor panics immediately and questions his superior's decision, demanding to know the reason for that punishment. With a highly intimidating look, the white-haired man stares at the professor and asks if he forgot about his magic. The headmaster reveals that he perfectly heard the dirty agreement between the teacher and the student regarding the cash payment for the victory. Very disappointed with that professional's attitude, the headmaster declares that accepting bribes and helping with cheating is unacceptable. The professor starts sweating cold from so much nervousness as he receives the sad news that he is expelled from the Magic Academy. Completely devastated by the severe punishment, the villain pulls his own hair and refuses to believe that he lost his job. The other students start whispering among themselves and realize that the second group to arrive would take the top of the test podium. The big partner shakes the boy with red streaks by the shoulders and screams in celebration that they will win the 100 points. The team leader just closes his eyes and gives a small, sincere smile upon seeing the immense joy plastered on his friend's face. But to everyone's surprise, the boy with red streaks announces out loud that he refuses to accept the first-place prize. His big partner widens his eyes, unable to understand the attitude, and asks why he is rejecting the victory. Facing the hero, the young redhead admits that the victory would belong to Eito if he had not gone back to rescue the injured students. The blue-haired hero is surprised by his rival's great display of honor and shows a tender and proud smile. With a much clearer conscience, the red-haired boy returns the friendly look, showing that he recognizes the protagonist's worth. Understanding the situation perfectly, the headmaster extends his hand and declares that Eito's squad is the true champion of the trial. The crowd of students goes wild and begins to celebrate the incredible overcoming of the underestimated group that managed to reach the top. The warrior couple exchanges radiant smiles when the superior finally confirms the reward of 100 points will be theirs. Very excited, Forno shows his glowing magic emblem and celebrates with his friends that he just went straight up to rank D. The pink-haired girl also vibrates with joy over the reward, while Sarah proudly points to her new badge. Amid the grand celebration, the squad leader focuses on his own emblem and calmly announces that he has become a rank S mage. The two girls go into shock at the revelation, as it is impossible for a freshman to reach the school's highest level so early on. The impressive news spreads quickly, and all the students start yelling in excitement over the emergence of a rookie genius. While everyone celebrates, the boy with glasses trembles from head to toe, consumed by uncontrollable anger in the face of his failure. The cheater cries out of pure hatred and curses the results, still insisting that his team deserved the prize for arriving first. Putting the whining aside, the red-haired boy walks calmly up to the protagonist and offers his congratulations in a very sincere way. Returning the kindness, the blue-haired hero says thanks and thus confirms that his red-haired rival's real name is Giulio. Giulio extends his hand for a firm handshake and announces that he has made a decision, and from now on he will fight alongside Eito. The young man agrees to the proposal and shakes his new ally's hand, stating that the two will become much stronger together. Closing his eyes, Eito remembers the former Captain Glenn and promises to inherit his will to protect the world with his friends. Watching that entire emotional scene, Sarah realizes with admiration that more and more strong people are joining the hero. With flushed cheeks and bright eyes, the platinum-haired girl clasps her hands, completely charmed by the hero. While the students celebrate the newly formed friendship, the academy headmaster focuses his gaze on Eito and mutters his name softly. Stroking his white beard, the old man evaluates the student as a great prodigy who usually only comes along once a century. The wise headmaster smiles, concluding that simple first-year boy could be the great hope to save the world. Looking up at the clear sky, the headmaster thinks to himself that he needs to subject the boy to new trials in the future. At home, a little dark-haired girl named Luna praises her older brother a lot for winning the test. The small red dragon accompanying him agrees and comments in awe that the hero won without even summoning him. Chewing his food calmly, the protagonist admits that he ran out of magic energy and wished for his little partner's help. His draconic companion focuses his thoughtful gaze and mutters that perhaps it is the right time for the warrior's awakening. Noticing the whispers, the young man asks if he said something, but the dragon quickly covers it up by asking for another plate of food. Little Luna agrees kindly and laughs a bit about how the small scaly companion eats quite a lot. Watching his little sister with affection, the hero swears in his mind that he will get stronger and stronger to protect her from everything. Later that same night, the image reveals the footsteps of a mysterious individual walking across the dark rooftops. The blue-haired warrior walks down an alley wearing a long dark cloak with a very serious expression on his face. The next day, the academy's grand clock tower stands out as the students gossip about the rank S mage. Being the first freshman in history to reach that level, Eito walks through the halls, becoming a huge local sensation. A boy quickly approaches the hero in a very excited way and tries to convince the young man to join their fencing club. Scratching the back of his neck somewhat awkwardly, the warrior confesses that he still has not decided which extracurricular activity he will participate in. Desperate, the student throws himself to his knees on the floor, begging for the prodigy rookie's presence so they can win the grand tournament. Suddenly, several other shadows begin to surround the young man, who fearfully asks everyone to give him some space. Several students from different groups try to recruit the boy at the same time, causing total chaos in the area. Sighing very heavily, the protagonist notices that the situation has gotten out of control and jokes that he feels like a star. The scene cuts to a large outdoor training area, where several instructors prepare a new challenge for the freshmen. A bespectacled student watches the field with disdain as he listens to the new instructions for the day's practical class. Staring at an immense material target, he questions with boredom if today's task is just to use magic to pierce that. Paying attention to the large dark barrier, Forno comments very tensely that the huge obstacle is made entirely of steel. With a very confident posture, the boy with glasses extends his hand and conjures a magic circle, casting a freezing spell. The glowing shots completely hit and pierce through the immense metallic target, making the student thrill with success. Adjusting the glasses on his face in a very arrogant manner, the young man gives a mocking smile and states that it was child's play. The instructor in charge of the activity writes down the result on his clipboard and calls the protagonist's name to be next. Hearing the evaluator call his name, the blue-haired hero answers immediately and walks over to the field's marking. Knowing the freshman's impressive level, the evaluator raises his hand and asks for a timeout to set up a challenge worthy of him. Giulio approaches angrily alongside his partner and questions if the instructors are not exaggerating the new difficulty. The challenge prepared for the prodigy consists of trying to pierce a solid block made up of 5 heavy steel plates. Placing his hand on his chin, the young man evaluates the block and decides that this is the ideal chance to test his advanced spells. The platinum-haired girl realizes her classmate's intention and is frightened by the absurd amount of energy he is gathering. Eito positions himself firmly and points his hand, firing a powerful thundering arrow charged with yellowish lightning. The glowing projectile of pure electrical energy crosses the field at an impressive speed toward the metallic barrier. Utterly astounded, the student with glasses widens his eyes in shock, trying to understand where such a powerful magic came from. The boom on the field is massive as the shot hits the steel plates, easily destroying all 5 of them at once. Amazed at the strike's absurd precision, Sarah stares at the warrior and tries to understand how he manages to concentrate so much power. The old instructor starts sweating cold and realizes that this student is on a much higher level, and that could be a problem. Clenching his victorious fist, the warrior reflects with satisfaction that his spells are becoming stronger and more versatile. Hearing the crowd around him screaming and praising that impressive attack, the protagonist feels somewhat embarrassed and sweaty. The scene shifts to a luxurious dining hall beautifully decorated with red roses and silver cutlery, leaving the young man confused. A friendly cook in a white uniform explains that Rank S students get a private chef and asks what the order will be. Completely out of place in that refined environment, Eito looks at his loyal sidekicks who are also sweating cold out of pure nervousness. Unsure of how to fully enjoy all that exaggerated pampering, the young man thinks for a moment and finally decides what to order there. Baffled by the simplicity, Sarah questions why he only asked for curry when he could order any other fancy dish. Laughing innocently, the blue-haired hero replies in a relaxed way that simple foods are the tastiest ones. Forno agrees with that opinion while savoring the dish and takes the chance to invite the whole group to visit his house. The protagonist finds the invitation odd, and Forno explains that his father wants to throw a big party to celebrate the squad's victory. With a beautiful smile, the pink-haired young woman supports the idea and insists that all the members accept that special outing. Enjoying the hot meal, the warrior agrees, saying that they all worked hard and deserve some good time off. Sitting alone, the protagonist reflects that he should use that good chance to investigate something that was bothering him a lot. The young warrior walks with slow steps through the huge, luxurious corridors of a gigantic magic library. He finds exactly what he was looking for and pulls out a very thick book containing the registry of former academy students. Sitting at a quiet table, Eito flips through the pages of the huge book, paying close attention to every name registered there. The young man is disappointed to notice that the former Captain Glenn's name is not on the list of graduates from that institution. With a serious expression, the hero concludes that he is truly living in that timeline in place of the former captain. A memory from the past emerges, and Eito understands that from now on he is the only one who can fight against the world's threats. The student closes the large alumni catalog and promises himself that he needs to become much stronger than Glenn ever was. The scene shifts to the next day, where Sarah walks down the street and tells the others that Forno's house must be very close. Little Luna walks hand in hand with Amy, wearing a beautiful dress, and shows some insecurity about being on the trip. The blue-haired hero smiles affectionately and reassures his sister, saying that his friends really wanted her there. Sarah smiles sweetly, praising the cuteness of her friend's little sister, and comments that Forno is going to be very surprised by the visit. The group arrives at their destination and is completely astounded when they come face to face with a huge and luxurious mansion with white pillars. Young Forno welcomes his friends with open arms, wearing an elegant green suit, and says that he has been eagerly waiting for them. The mansion's interior is even more extravagant, showcasing detailed rugs, red armchairs, and high-end luxury furniture. Libra scratches the back of his neck, quite impressed by the wealth, and jokes that his gray-haired friend had never mentioned that before. With a very polite smile, Forno asks everyone to make themselves at home and announces that his family has prepared a grand banquet. The brown-haired warrior vibrates with joy, clenching his fists as he tells the protagonist that he can hardly wait to eat a lot. At that moment, a distinguished older man with gray hair and noble clothes appears on the scene, watching the visitors.